only to enter the town, which is heavily mined right now, with the people who have been without water and food for over 2 weeks, no power. The hospitals have some amazing staff that have stayed on. However, they have found themselves in a pretty dire situation. A lot of their materials and equipment have been looted. Medical instruments, to surgical tables, to wheelchairs, to frozen food. So whilst they have an amazing committed staff of surgeons and nurses, they aren't equipped with what they need, particularly as they're approaching winter. People are relieved that it has been retaken, but they have a long road ahead of them to recovery.
She says NGOs are pivotal in getting water, food and cash to residents of Kherson, but the biggest challenge is dealing with Russia's efforts to destroy Ukraine's energy infrastructure, just as the hard Ukrainian winter sets in. The main news again, desperate efforts continue in Indonesia to find anyone still alive beneath the rubble of yesterday's earthquake that hit West Java. Top US officials on visits to Asia have spoken out against China's behaviour in the Indo-Pacific. Cristiano Ronaldo has left Manchester United with immediate effect, and in a World Cup stunner, Argentina lost 2-1 to Saudi Arabia. There's more from us on Twitter @Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Congressman Hanford, you're married, 2 beautiful children, and yet you texted nude photographs to a 23-year-old staffer. Why did you do it?
I wanted her to see my penis. I was hoping the penis photo would arouse her sexually, that she might think, that's a nice penis. I will respond with an offer to have sex with the penis, or maybe send a photo of my breasts. I would like that. And that's what I was hoping would happen.
Here's what intrigues so many people. Why would a promising, successful politician take such a big risk?
I knew I could let down my family, destroy my marriage, and damage the country that I love, but on the other hand, if there's even the small chance of getting off at any time, you gotta take it.
The big question. Do you plan to resign?
No, I'm very good at my job. Plus, it's a lot harder to get women to have sex with you when you're not a congressman.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and you're welcome to join the show. All you have to do is dial on in here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can also use our SIP line, which I did some work on last night. Turned out our instructions for calling the SIP line were, while well written, not using the best service provider, and so we've changed our recommendations on that. If you've tried to call the SIP line before and you've failed, visit sip.freetalklive.com for a new recommended provider that should make it super easy for you to call in that way. It's just a more higher quality internet calling method, and we don't talk about it enough, so go to sip.freetalklive.com to get those instructions. Tonight it's Ian,
Aria,
and Conan.
Conan, apparently there's been another shooting out there, another Colorado shooting.
Another safe space got shot up.
A safe space?
Well, somewhere where there's probably no firearms allowed by the ownership.
Right, well, not the traditional safe space of a government school in this case. You're talking about this is a club.
Right.
Where I presume there are bouncer types or whatever that are checking people for weapons.
Probably just IDs. They're probably not actually even looking for weapons because it's just not somewhere where weapons frequent.
In most places, there's going to be alcohol served at these drag shows, and it's generally a bad idea to mix firearms and alcohol.
So, to be clear, it wasn't a drag show.
There was a stage performance. I'm not sure exactly what was going on the stage.
I thought the drag show was the next night.
There was an event taking place. There was dancing.
Okay.
The patrons were dancing, and there was a stage.
Well, if it's a gay club, there's going to be dancing pretty much every night.
Right, but there was a stage presence that was taking place, and it's not clear what was actually going on. But the reasoning behind the shooting was because of the following day's all-ages drag show that was going to take place. That had just been advertised on their site, and like a couple hours later.
How do you know that was the reason?
suspect. It's suspect.
Is the shooter still alive? I know nothing about this. I saw the headlines. I saw somebody shoots up a gay club in Colorado, apparently. I didn't even know where it was. I heard there was a gay club shooting. Remember there was that one in Florida, in Orlando, like 15 years ago?
That was a long time ago,
yeah.
I do that one. It wasn't quite 15 years ago, but that one was
a while back.
Especially notable. That one even had my father willing to go out there and march in an LGBT pride parade.
Do we remember what was the reasoning? Was that a jilted lover, or was that an actual hater?
I don't think it was
definitely was not Islamic terrorism.
Which is what, that's what they tried to push down our throats, is that it was some type of...
Well, no, they pushed down that it was definitely not that, even though the guy was a Muslim and it was an act of terrorism.
Damn, that feels like so long ago. It was actually only 2016.
I thought it was relatively,
like
just before I moved up here.
It's at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, I thought it was at least a decade, but no.
There's just so many of these things. Wait, hold on, let me back off. There aren't so many of these, but they make it... They report on them like they're happening every other night.
I don't know about that, Conan. I mean, I don't remember hearing about any other gay club shooting since
I'm
Orlando.
talking about shootings in general.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about gay clubs.
Mass shootings.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is the only... I wouldn't even remember that one. You advertised this night's show as another gay shooting. I'm like, when was the last one? I don't remember.
Pulse was the last one that I remember.
The Pulse nightclub was hosting Latin Night at the time when the shooting went down there. And the man who allegedly did it, Omar Mateen, 29 years old at the time, he was shot and killed by police after a 3-hour standoff. He had sworn allegiance to the leader of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. So apparently he said the U.S. killing of Abu Wahib in Iraq had triggered the shooting. So it's not clear, why this club versus some other one. I don't know. It's been a while.
Well, he was undoubtedly homophobic, or he had some sort of hatred for LGBT people.
Well, as we learned last night, or discussed last night, and we were talking about Qatar and the World Cup and all the various different restrictions going on over there, certainly a lot of the people in the Muslim community are not comfortable
allegedly.
with gay people.
Did that even happen, is my question.
Did what happen?
Was he actually confronted and told to leave and take his shirt off? Because he eventually got in there, by the way, with his shirt.
Pulse?
Qatar.
What are you talking about?
The reporter with the LGBTQ shirt who got turned away at the door.
I hadn't heard anything about it.
This is news to me.
The World Cup.
Uh-huh.
All right, so some soccer reporter was trying to enter in to report on football
into the country,
into the World Cup event,
into the actual stadium.
He had a LGBTQ soccer shirt on.
Yeah.
And he was turned away.
Did it show like people kissing on it or something?
No, it just had the rainbow flag.
That's it.
Around a soccer ball. I thought you guys talked about this.
No,
we talked about different aspects of this.
No, we just talked about how Qatar is restrictive towards people doing gay things, basically, and people doing any kind of public display of affection is what we learned. You can't even hold hands with your wife.
What sparked that? Because this is very curious that this just happened.
It's all in the news. The whole World Cup.
It was because of this reporter. Probably.
No, this was about the armbands and the players wanting to wear armbands that said #OneLove, where FIFA and I believe, although I haven't seen this confirmed anywhere, the Qatar government wanted them to instead have one that said no discrimination.
And there's a prohibition on alcohol at the stadium as well.
I heard about that one.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things in the news about that.
All sorts of reasons not to have this thing in Qatar.
Right.
Well, and what was your conclusion? Because I'm going to say, when in Rome, do as Qatar does.
Stay out of Rome.
Yeah, either boycott Qatar, or do what they want because it's their country. It's their country.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly it. That was the argument I think that we ended up making, was that, FIFA dropped the ball here and that they should have said that this amount of money, that they should have given it to the second place bidder, whoever that would have been, or they should have said to Qatar, okay, that's fine, you can have the World Cup there, but you're going to have to adopt the standards of the countries that are going to be playing there, at least to some extent.
Yeah, right.
That's not going to happen.
No. In which case, go on to the second bidder.
So, okay, let's go back to this story, though, Conan. So you have a shooting that happened in Colorado at a gay club. There's at least several people that were killed.
There's 5 dead, and there's like 20 that were shot. 20 wounded.
And did you say what happened to the shooter?
He was tackled by two dudes.
So they got him alive.
They got him alive, and of course they are still investigating the motives. No one really knows what was. Everyone's speculating. They all say it's a hater who went in there, and because of the the next day's event.
Well, it's speculation about the next day's event, but I mean, there's no doubt that he was a hater. You have to hate someone in order to go to a club and shoot 20 people and kill 5 others.
You could just be a psychopath.
You could be just a psychopath,
true.
and you could also be a self-hating gay.
Could be.
I find that argument so weak, though. I mean, so many people out there hate pedophiles, but it's not because they're secretly pedophiles, and that's essentially what they're saying.
I think there are those people.
There may be some.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of those people.
But it leads to this mentality that, oh, I hate racists, therefore they're actually racist, or whatever you hate, you're not secretly that. That's what I hear when I hear you hate gay people. It's because you're secretly actually gay. No, I hate racists, but it's not because I'm secretly a racist.
Yeah, but then we enter into the law of projection, and if you've got someone that's all they ever talk about, and they're writing posts about it, I hate this, I hate that. It's like you come. Sometimes you come to the conclusions like maybe you should just step back and reconsider. Are you maybe the problem? Why are you always talking about this?
Why are you always thinking about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between what you're saying here, Arya.
Yeah.
You said you hate racists. I personally pity them.
I don't hate them, right?
But you don't obsess over them, right? Like, you're not waking up in the morning going and checking racist blogs to see what the racists are saying. You're not having arguments with them regularly. You're not seeking them out, are you, for drama or anything like that?
No, but I immediately think about the people on our Matrix server who wake up and start reading on Reddit about trans threads and stuff like that because they're just obsessed. So
that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who are absolutely obsessed. They can't stop talking about it. They can't stop thinking about it. There's something in the back of that person's mind, whether they're conscious of it or not, and I suspect they are, and that's why they kind of act out in a way that says, I'm not gay. I'm going to go out and shoot some gays to prove it, whatever, right?
Or for whatever reason, it's something about themselves that they hate.
Mm-hmm.
And so they take it out on the people around them. This is normal. This is normal behavior, actually.
And you can see it, of course, when, we see it with the politicians who make a big stink about going anti-gay.
And then 6 months later, you find them in the
men's bathroom playing footsie with somebody.
Correct. This happens all the time.
Trying to have sex with somebody in the men's bathroom, which actually happened. And I think it was some D.C. politician within the last couple decades. There's more coming up here. You can share your thoughts on the latest shooting. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Gold and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals shipped fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold back. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
There are basically 2 types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Do you know the difference between erudite and pedantic? If you do, you're probably pedantic. But seriously, a surprising number of erudite people mispronounce erudite, which has 3 syllables, not 4. Say erudite, not erudite. Because you are judged by how you speak, you want to avoid common misstatements, especially if you're a job seeker. For instance, do you know the difference between imply and infer? Only a speaker can imply. Only a listener can infer. And when you say you'll be out of pocket, do you mean out of touch? Out of pocket means you're on your own dime, not yet reimbursed. And if anyone ever asks, why do you always answer a question with a question? You should reply, do I do that? Just kidding. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone? You forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection. You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Phones are open, and you can join the show here. We're talking about the latest mass shooting happening in Colorado at a club called Club Q, and apparently there was a drag show going on. What you had said previously, Conan, was that there was a scheduled all-ages drag show the next day that is allegedly the reason why this person was shooting, but
who knows?
We don't know yet. It's a little too early to say for sure what the motives are behind this individual who has been identified as a man who has changed his name within the last 5 years, apparently. He currently goes by Anderson Lee Aldrich.
Three names.
Well, they always do that. It's to the news has, I think, a policy of going by three names if they can, because you don't want to confuse them with Anderson Jones Aldrich or Anderson Bob Aldrich or whatever.
Is that the truth, or is it just when the CIA puts these guys together, they're like, we've got to have three names, just like Oswald.
Don't you have a middle name?
Yeah, but I never use it.
Well, they're going to put it out there if you ever get caught doing something, allegedly
Well, that's
violent.
not going to happen. But
okay, then you don't have to worry about it. We won't find out what your middle name is, Conan.
It's not as precious as Conan. It's a lot more mundane.
Apparently his original name, he was from Bexar County, Texas. Used to be known as Nicholas F. Brink, but in 2016 he petitioned the court to change his name to what it currently is. And then he apparently recently went into this Colorado LGBTQ nightclub and shot up the place before being stopped by two patrons in the club that took him down. One ex-military guy that managed to take him down, and another one of the drag performers as well, apparently. So speaking of the military, if you've ever worked at Camp Lejeune or lived there between the years of 1953 to 1988 and you've suffered from cancer, Parkinson's, or another serious health issue, you might be entitled to compensation. They had contaminants in the drinking water during those years that have led to those diseases. There might be some deadlines involved, so don't hold off on this. Go and call this number I'm about to give you, and you can find out if you or a loved one are eligible for possible payments. 888-918-1037 is the number. That's 888-918-1037. If you were at Camp Lejeune 1953 to 1988 and you've had a serious health issue, money is already set aside. So let's see here. What did you learn about this, Conan? What do we need to know about the shootings, the latest shootings?
The shooter has three names. We've got that down. Young person, left behind a girlfriend. But not a whole lot more to go on that. And he's alive. You got it. Supposedly the military dude you just talked about really smacked him around a little bit.
I would hope so.
And
he took his gun from him and beat him with it.
Yeah, and I think the performer was actually kicking him in the head. So it's this is what you should suspect, when you go in there and you try to pull a stunt like this.
According to the news, CNN.com reports that he was arrested last year in connection with a bomb threat that led to a standoff at his mother's home. According to a news release from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, two law enforcement sources confirmed that the suspect in Saturday's shooting and the bomb threat were indeed the same person based on his name and date of birth.
Yeah, I heard allegations that he changed his name in order to hide from his past of mental illness and past criminal history, but having changed my name and known several people who changed their names, it's not like this blank. You don't suddenly get a blank slate where you're disconnected from your past. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, plus he changed his name in 2016 and he got accused of the bomb threat last year, so he did that after changing his name. There's video from a Ring door camera of his house, or his mom's house, shows him exiting the house with his hands up and barefoot, walking to sheriff's deputies. They responded to a report by the man's own mother that he was, quote, threatening to cause harm to her with a homemade bomb, multiple weapons, and ammunition. Deputies called the suspect, and he refused to comply with orders to surrender, leading them to evacuate nearby homes. In video obtained by CNN, he appears to rant about the police and challenging them to breach the house where he was holed up. He says on the video, pointing a camera out the window, saying, quote, I've got the effing S-heads outside. Look at that. They've got a bead on me. You see that right there? Effing S-heads got their effing rifles out. If they breach, I'm a effing blow it to holy hell, he adds, and then walks in and out of a bedroom. I mean, you've got a guy threatening his own mother with a bomb, and he's still walking the streets, apparently.
Though authorities at the time said no explosives were found,
I'm not at all surprised that he was full of it.
Gun control advocates have asked why police didn't use Colorado's red flag laws to seize the weapons his mother says he had.
Well, thank God they didn't, because all of these red flag laws would keep every trans person in just about every state from owning a gun.
There's no public record prosecutors ever moved forward with felony kidnapping and menacing charges against Aldrich. And by the way, that's what always scares me, is the first thing they start talking about is they bring up these issues from years ago, and it's like, why didn't they take his guns then? Red flag logs, da-da-da-da-da, and that's where they get you.
Well, he had committed violent crimes, it sounds like. We don't even need a red flag law at this point. It sounds like he had committed felonies.
It sounds why, but these prosecutors didn't move forward with so why not?
It's not even about red flag laws. It was, why didn't the prosecutors move forward? Why wasn't he charged with these actual violent crimes?
Well, maybe this didn't happen in 2021.
Well, there's video of it.
They didn't find a bomb.
Well, at the very least, there's video of the SWAT team pulling up to his house and him stepping outside.
And evidently saying that he was going to blow the place. So whether I don't believe for a second that he had an actual bomb and they didn't find a bomb, but still, that's a violent threat and intent to cause bodily harm to another. That's a felony. That's a violent felony.
Right. So how does he avoid this? And then maybe this points to possible CIA involvement, right? Or FBI or whoever it is that's doing the MK Ultra on these people here. It says, according to CNN, it's not immediately clear how the bomb threat case was resolved. According to the Colorado Springs Gazette, the attorney's office, or district attorney's office, said no formal charges were pursued in the case. I mean, can you imagine calling your mom saying that you're threatening her with a bomb and other weapons, and then you have a standoff with the SWAT team before you finally finally walk out of the house and turn yourself in, and not being charged with something,
or even going to jail for a night?
Yeah, there's something very peculiar about that. So he didn't even go to jail for the night?
That's not clear. He certainly wasn't charged. And according to the district attorney's office, his arrest in connection with a bomb threat wouldn't have even shown up in background checks, according to law enforcement sources who said records indicate he purchased the weapons because the case was never adjudicated. The charges were dropped and the records were sealed.
Of course, this did happen during the COVID times. So maybe the courts were all logged up, jammed up.
That wouldn't.
All the more reason they need to stop pursuing nonviolent crimes. If they're so jammed up that they can't pursue someone threatening to bomb his mother to death.
Yeah, what they did here during the COVID thing was they just kept kicking people's court dates back. So if you got arrested, you'd sit in jail unless you could bail yourself out during that time frame.
And he wasn't a teen either. He would have been 21.
Yeah.
According to this timeline. So he was an adult. This is very curious.
That is really strange.
And absolutely no charges were pursued.
Nope.
Doesn't
Sealed
make any
case.
sense.
Why did they seal the records in this case?
And so now leftists are pointing to red flag laws saying, well, why didn't, the red flag laws protect us? And that's not even the question. The question is, why didn't the prosecutors do their job?
Why didn't you already follow the law that's on the books instead of here we are trying to make new law?
Yep, good questions. If you want to jump in here, you can. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Apparently, they went after an ex-priest, and you've got a story about that, Aria. Somebody who was targeted for having sex on the altar of his ex-church. Coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
I said he was working for
You
criminals.
called him a criminal, did you not?
No,
I don't
he
think
might have
so.
just been a sucker.
He said he was working for liars and thieves and criminals. Isn't that what we would call politicians?
They've been crooked since the dawn of time.
Agreed. So let me ask you, what is somebody who takes money to kill at the behest of liars and thieves? What do you call that person? Because a veteran is the one who called in and boxed us in the corner on this in the past. I don't have an answer to that question. That sounds very nice, at least. Do you?
Truthfully, no, I really don't have an answer to that question except to say he was doing his job.
Well, I mean, that's what they said at the Nuremberg trials, right? We were just following orders.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Desperate efforts continue in Indonesia to find anyone still alive beneath the rubble of yesterday's earthquake that hit West Java with a magnitude of 5.6. At least 268 people are known to have been killed, including many children who were at school at the time of the quake. More than 2,000 homes have been damaged or destroyed, and at least 1,000 people were injured. Nicola Smith is Asia correspondent for Britain's Daily Telegraph newspaper.
It's about 100 kilometres west of Jakarta, and there are small towns, villages that are very hard to reach. Indonesia, unfortunately, experiences a lot of earthquakes. It's on the so-called Ring of Fire. It's named that because of volcanoes and fault lines in that area. So people are used to earthquakes. At the same time, it's a very frightening experience.
Top US officials on visits to Asia have spoken out against China's behaviour in the Indo-Pacific. Vice President Kamala Harris and Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin heavily criticised what they called Beijing's intimidation and coercion and its increasingly dangerous actions. With more, FSN's Nick Harper from our Washington bureau.
Well, all of this unfolded during Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to the Philippines and the island of Palawan in the South China Sea. She made it very clear that the trip was about countering the rise of China. Harris promised that America stood ready to defend the Philippines if Beijing launched an attack in the contested South China Sea.
The United States stands with the Philippines in the face of intimidation and coercion.
As we heard there, Harris didn't directly name China, but it's clear which country she was referring to.
The US Supreme Court has ruled once again that Donald Trump must hand over his tax returns to a House of Representatives committee. The court dismissed the former president's latest effort to block the US Treasury Department from handing the files over to Democrats who remain in control of the House of Representatives until January. In the world of football, two major stories today. Cristiano Ronaldo's time with Manchester United is at an end. He's leaving the club with immediate effect. Both sides said the decision was mutual. It followed a controversial interview in which Ronaldo said he felt betrayed by the club and had no respect for manager Erik ten Hag. At the World Cup, Argentina has suffered one of the biggest shock defeats in the tournament's history. The team went down 2-1 at the hands of Saudi Arabia. Correspondent Joe Rawson is in Qatar.
Yeah, what a moment for Saudi Arabia. A huge shock, possibly the biggest shock in terms of World Cup group history. The celebrations here in Qatar, as you can imagine, the first Middle Eastern country to get a victory. It has been going crazy.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phone's open. You can join us right here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And want to say thanks to Freedom's Phoenix. It's your source for all news, economic, government overreach, insane government spending, and more. You can get today's headlines in one place and from a fresh libertarian perspective over at freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. It's Ian, Aria, Conan here in the studio tonight. We were talking about this shooting over in Colorado, and Conan, you're saying you just saw something that says the dude was charged in the situation with his mother reporting him as threatening her with a bomb.
Back in 2021, Aldrich was charged with 2 counts of felony menacing and 3 counts of first-degree kidnapping for the incident. The El Paso Sheriff's Office, which handled his arrest, did not release a mugshot from the incident and did not immediately respond to inquiries from Fox News Digital.
Still, that was...
But this all just happened, so you know how this works. We're going to be they're going to be trickling little bits and pieces of info for the next week, 2 weeks, forever. You know, there are some shootings that took place, Las Vegas, that we still don't know what went down. So it just depends on who's doing the research, who's doing the investigating, and what information they choose to hand down to us.
Huh.
Yeah, but 2021 was last year, and this guy, I would expect in a state prison system, he's already been tried, or he would have already been tried, or pled guilty, or whatever the result would have been. I fail to see how, or at the very least, on pre-trial supervised release, I fail to see how this person could have acquired firearms.
Apparently, they never took them from him or something. It's not really clear. I mean, you're saying he was charged, but according to the Colorado Gazette, they're saying no formal charges were pursued in the case.
Interesting.
And that it was sealed. So maybe he was initially charged on the day of by the police, but then the prosecutors declined to move them forward, right? Because when the legal procedure is the police can bring a charge against you, they can arrest you for a thing, but then it still has to go to the prosecutor's office, and the prosecutor can then continue to bring the case, or they can say, nope, we're going to null pros this, and then just cancel it right there. So it sounds like maybe that's what happened, was it got to the prosecutor, and they decided to just shelve this thing, and then sealed the files.
Whose grandson is he? Is he like the mayor's grandson or something?
That is also part of the story at CNN. He's the grandson of an outgoing California assemblyman.
All right, maybe that's why it all got thrown under the table.
What is an assemblyman? That doesn't sound like a position that has a whole lot of prestige and power to it.
It's a state lawmaker, so he's like a state rep.
Okay,
basically.
Yeah, I don't know about California, but in New Hampshire, that wouldn't be enough to get your charges dismissed by a long shot.
And plus, why would that guy have any sway in Colorado, right? Like the fact that his grandpa is an assemblyman in California, I mean, it doesn't really vibe as far as why that would work out. But according to the Colorado Gazette, apparently Aldrich, who was the alleged shooter here, called an editor at the Gazette in August and asked that the story be removed since the case was dropped. So, I mean, so even the suspect himself was trying to clean up the internet of stories about him. Like, he's calling
it doesn't work that way, dude. Sorry, first of all. Second of all, why were the charges were dropped?
That's what he said. That's according to Aldrich, in a voice message left for the Gazette's editors, quote, "There is absolutely nothing there. The case was dropped, and I'm asking you to either remove or update the story." He said the entire case was dismissed in his voicemail.
And if any of this had gone forward, he would not have been able to purchase that AR-style rifle and the handgun, if I understand correctly. This is another state, but I'm just saying this is how it works in New Hampshire.
Even if the charges were still pending, he wouldn't have been able to acquire them. They don't allow people with pending felony charges to...
Yeah, I can't have a gun.
Nor can I.
Right.
Nor can any of the Crypto 6 or anyone who's been... awaiting trial. Maybe if it's a misdemeanor, you may still be able to have a firearm. I don't know. But if it's a felony, you're not. And aggravated kidnapping or whatever the kid was charged with, definitely a
First
felony.
degree, 3. Yeah. So, like you said, Conan, it was the sheriff's office that was saying he was facing the charges. So, sheriffs took him in, charged him.
Yep.
Prosecutors dropped it.
Yep.
Is what it looks like. 2 counts of felony menacing, 3 counts of first degree kidnapping. So that's it. That's what we got on this guy. Of course, I haven't had a chance to pursue what 4chan is saying about him. You know, they always do their own investigations and find all kinds of interesting details.
And their investigations are interesting, if nothing else. They're not always necessarily right, and sometimes they're misguided, but they're at least interesting.
Yep, you're going to definitely see stuff you won't see in the mainstream media over there. That's for sure. If you want to weigh in on this discussion, the number is 603-283-6160. But it does bring up a larger issue, and that is people freaking out. Now, whether or not this was the reason for this guy going in and doing the shooting, we still don't know. But there's a lot of people who are losing it over drag shows.
Yeah, they are, man. I don't know why it suddenly is this issue.
Right, they've been around for forever, as long as men have worn women's clothing.
Yeah, there are not more drag shows going on right now. I think conservatives just ran out of other things to be upset about.
Yeah,
so
but how many drag shows include 8-year-olds?
The same number that included them 10 years ago. Very, very few, and it's not my business if a parent wants to take their kid to a drag show.
I agree with that. I just don't understand why people are
not
so
take
concerned.
the kid, the actual let the kid perform.
It's still not my business.
At an adult event.
Is that what they were going to do in Colorado?
I don't know, but I do know that there are very famous. I'm thinking immediately of a Amazing Desmond or whatever, who's like a 8-year-old who performs drag.
Who cares? I just don't understand. I mean, if that's what the parents and that kid want to do for fun or whatever, why is it anyone else's business?
Because of the sexualization of the event. If you're taking your clothes off, if a kid,
that's a strip show, Conan. We're not talking about strip shows.
That's what this kid does.
What about these cheerleading competitions? These dance competitions, like the movie Cuties pointed out, happen every single day.
I'm not okay with Cuties either.
And not necessarily the film, but the actual dance competition, because Cuties is an exaggerated form of that. But these cheerleading competitions, these dance competitions, they happen for kids who are 10 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old every single day in the United States.
If a 10-year-old is grinding on stage, a very sexualized act, I am not okay with that, and that is grooming.
But it's not your kid.
It doesn't. All right, that's a good point. Except it doesn't matter because I'm a part of the community. I'm a part of the collective. And I can see the downward spiral that is taking place right in front of me.
But we don't know that it's necessarily a downward spiral. You're assuming that. For all we know, that having 8-year-olds in drag shows and doing cheerleading competitions leads to a better, more productive society. We don't know.
8-year-olds aren't thinking about sex or performing sex. They shouldn't be unless they've been introduced to that by an adult who is into it.
Look, Conan, I tend to agree with you on these things as far as that's too young.
And by the way, I actually have kids, unlike you two.
You do.
Okay, just get that out on the table.
You do. And I tend to agree with you on your opinion about this, but it's none of my business, right? I don't have to go to the drag show. Right? I don't have to participate in any way, shape, or form. I don't have to give money to that company or whoever it is that's hosting. And again, what you're talking about sounds like a strip show to me. This isn't drag. Drag is generally men dressing in women's clothing and singing pop songs. Like that's 99% of.
That's what they would like you to believe is going on at these events.
Ian, you've been to one of these events.
I have no reason to disbelieve
But when articles of clothing are getting taken off and being thrown into the audience, and money is being handed up to these people to put in their G-strings.
Hold on.
All right, now that you've entered into another level.
Because, Ian, you've been to one of these events.
I've been to more than one. I mean, not that many.
Have you ever been to any of these events?
I've seen these events taking place at parades.
You've seen
I've never gone to a nightclub and watched one of these.
You've seen clips of what conservatives want you to get upset about on the internet.
Okay, so they do exist.
Let's talk about it. Coming up here, there's more on the way. The number is 603-283-6160. You can share your thoughts on the drag controversy. It's Free Talk Live.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join the show here, it's 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Aria.
And Conan.
We're talking about people getting all upset over drag shows, not strip shows. And they seem to be, I don't know if it's purposeful. I suspect it's just pure ignorance. But they seem to be likening strip shows to drag shows and acting as though every drag show is actually a strip show.
I'm sure some of them are.
Maybe.
But
I've
not
never
all
seen
of
it.
them. Right.
I've never seen it. They probably do exist, But I suspect those particular shows are not marketed to children.
I would imagine not.
I will say this, the show that I went to, I hadn't seen a drag show since I was living in Florida, but there was one that came to Keene here 2 months ago, I think, at this point, and Bonnie and I went. You told us it wasn't your thing, so
it's not my
you
thing.
don't want to go. But
I was also doing an interview with the German news team who was out here on that very day, so I wouldn't have been available to go anyway. But I mean, from what
it's
I
not
could
your kind of music either. It was Madonna.
It's not, yeah.
Right?
But from what I could tell, it was packed. There were people
Sold
everywhere.
out.
I felt kind of weird walking past the event, being me, right?
And what are they doing? Like show tunes?
No, it was all Madonna in this case. Yeah. But yeah, you would definitely see drag performers performing show tunes and that sort of
thing. Yeah, and if it's adults, I don't have any issue whatsoever.
Well,
in fact, some of it's pretty good. But when I see a 10-year-old, by the way, I don't know if there are any. I kept saying 8. Desmond is amazing. Is currently 11.
Desmond is currently 15, apparently.
Oh,
but
really?
When
Started
Desmond
when he was
hit
10.
the scene, it was like 10, 11, something like that. But let me tell you a little bit more about this event, Conan. It was advertised as some portions may not be appropriate for children. That was in the flyer for the event. And turns out that wasn't because there was like nudity or stripping or anything like that. It was because of the language that was being used at the event. It was an adult show, right? But there was at least 1 or 2 people that had brought their kids with them to the event. And let me tell you, there was nothing here that was more offensive than something you would see at your average R-rated movie.
Yeah, I mean, we know that this takes place with all the gay pride parades and events that take place. People bring their kids, and there's
Does that upset you?
When a dude is out there in his bikini and he's got dildos all over his forehead, and he's twerking and he's grinding right in front of like a little kid.
That didn't happen.
This happens all the time, dude.
I don't know, man.
Maybe it does.
I've never seen this.
Have you've neither of you have been to a gay pride event, a parade?
Yes, but I've never seen a dude in a bikini with dildos on his forehead or whatever it is that you said. I've never seen it, man.
That's not to say it hasn't happened somewhere, Conan. It's probably on Libs of TikTok. That's probably how he saw it. They love posting this kind of stuff at Libs of TikTok.
These events do. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's 1 in 100. But these events do take place, and kids are involved.
Let's say that they do. All right. Let's say that.
No, they do.
Let's pretend like it happened in Keene, and that there was a couple of people there that have brought their kids. And one of these performers comes out and does something really lewd on the stage, like you're describing, and
the kid.
So what?
And the kid sees it, and the kid is like, "I want to be like that person." And the next thing you know, and then you get your downward spiral.
So you think, I don't know that there's anything bad with the
Kids
child wanting
learn
to be
from
like
adults.
I don't think there's anything bad with a child wanting to be a drag queen or a trans or any of these things. I don't know why that's necessarily a downward spiral, but this myth that kids are just blank slates ready to reflect whatever they witness, it's mythology. It's
kids
nonsense.
are blank slates. They learn from their surroundings.
The Christians put up forward this idea that that they're kids that can read the Bible every single day, but then they read one queer book in the public library, and suddenly they're gender queer and they're cross-dressing, and it's absolute nonsense that kids can be so easily molded by one exposure to something.
The difference is you're not going to have a Christian set of parents take their kids to the show where there's somebody grinding, doing whatever on the stage. That child is likely not going to be put into that circumstance. The kind of parents that are going to take their kids to a show like that are probably parents that are very liberal. They're probably parents that, have sex in front of their children or something like that, right? Like there's all kinds of weird things that other parents would do that maybe we wouldn't do, right? And so the question is, if parents take their kids to a show where something offensive like you're describing and things we can't say on the radio, right, are happening on stage, what should happen to those parents?
I don't know, but
there's literally some people that want to make this illegal, Conan.
Yeah, let's be very clear with what I'm trying to tackle here. Whenever you sexualize any of these actions, that's my issue. That's my problem. That's These are kids.
Is that because sex is bad?
For a 10-year-old, 10-year-olds shouldn't be thinking about sex unless they're on the farm and they're helping dad inseminate the cow.
That's fine.
Because it's life.
That's grooming. That's grooming. That's teaching that child
Everything is
how
grooming.
to engage.
Everything is grooming.
Oh, then what's the problem with drag shows?
if it's just some dude up there singing some show tunes or some Madonna, I don't have a problem with it. But when it's some kid, some 10-year-old who's disrobing, he's not disrobing to a bikini, his underwear or anything, but he's out there getting dollars for his dancing skills, and it's nothing but thirsty old dudes. I have an issue with that because we know what they're thinking. We know what those dudes, why they went to this event.
They're thinking, and I'm not going to project anything I may be thinking.
All we have to do is just look at the news.
I think we found the projection.
Does that just look at the news? Look at all the pedophiles that are being caught every single day in this country.
But wait a minute, does what you're describing actually happen? Because whenever I see even these clips that Libs of TikTok has posted, and I've seen some of them, it's usually like there was one of them of a stripper or something, where there really was somebody that, the person wasn't naked, but they were in like a thong, right? So like not a drag show. They weren't dressing in drag.
You see that at the beach.
Well, certainly. But there was like some little kid putting $1 in the person's thong or something like that, and the conservatives are losing they're freaking out over this. But in the background, you could see it was like families that were attending this thing. I did not see a whole bunch of thirsty dudes in the background. So have you actually seen this happening?
I have it right here. I have it pulled up.
You have a video of a
Desmond is amazing doing dancing to No Doubt, or I'm Just a Girl by No Doubt.
Yeah.
Going in and out of the audience, and it's nothing but old dudes. It's child endangerment. That's what this is.
And I would have
the exact same problem if I found out that my neighbor was beating his kids.
Mm-hmm.
I had the exact same issue with introducing these sexualized notions to a 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. Let the kid go play. Let him go out, build forts.
This is how
with his
Desmond
friends.
plays. I don't see that.
I would have the
I'm not trying to argue.
I would have the same issue with
just
handing a 10-year-old a stack of Playboys or whatever smut is available in magazine style.
Are you
and
telling
alcohol
me you
and
didn't
cigarettes
have a
and go for it?
You're telling me you didn't sneak a Playboy when you were 10 years old?
I absolutely did.
Okay.
But it was secretive. I had to do it. I had to learn it. I had to figure it out on my own.
What would have been? Wait a minute, Conan. So
my parents weren't just saying, "Hey, here's some porn, dude."
But communication
go to town.
with your parents is good.
Yeah, I don't see like to me, when I was raised, my parents would send me down the hall if they were watching like an R-rated movie and there was a sex scene that would come on or something like that. They'd say, "Oh, you got to go down the hall." And of course, now I want to know what's on the TV. Like, why are my parents
or they just fast forward through
what are they keeping me away from, right? And so it made sex more mysterious. It made it more, alluring, that sort of thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with. I agree with you to say like don't force this stuff on kids, but would there be anything wrong if like a grandpa gave his grandson a Playboy, at age 8 or 9 or something like that? Like, here, don't tell your parents or whatever. Share it with your friends. I don't see what the problem with that is.
I don't see anything wrong with the parents doing it.
Yeah, except it's never the granddad. It's the neighbor's uncle. Yeah. Who has...
That's because they can't get it from their own parents, right?
Yeah, and he has ideas. The neighbor's uncle, whatever, has ideas, and that is what we have. That's my issue.
If the kid's parents get him the Playboy subscription, then he doesn't have to go to the creepy uncle.
Yeah, except how many parents are going to do that except the liberal types that you're talking about?
That's the thing, right? So the question
is... Or Desmond is Amazing's mom.
Are the liberal-raised kids less depraved sexually than the conservatives?
Less depraved?
Yeah.
No, they're more depraved.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think the more you repress sexuality, the more you tell kids sex is bad, the more depraved and the more deviancy you see.
All right, where do you find more broken families and single parent households?
The trailer park.
And also liberal.
It's not among LGBTQ families. They're rock solid. They're some of the most successful, stable families out there, by all accounts.
No, I'm asking the question. I don't actually know. Where the most broken families come from politically?
Straight people. By definition, straight people.
Yeah, but gay people aren't. How many gay people are having families?
Plenty, especially nowadays. And they're very good at it.
Call in and tell us.
Very successful.
Open phones here. The number 603-283-6160. Is all sex bad? Is the repression of sexuality really the problem? You tell us. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Desperate efforts continue in Indonesia to find anyone still alive beneath the rubble of yesterday's earthquake that hit West Java with a magnitude of 5.6. At least 268 people are known to have been killed, including many children who were at school at the time of the quake. More than 2,000 homes have been damaged or destroyed, and at least 1,000 people were injured. Nicola Smith is Asia correspondent for Britain's Daily Telegraph newspaper.
It's about 100 kilometres west of Jakarta, and there are small towns, villages that are very hard to reach. Indonesia, unfortunately, experiences a lot of earthquakes. It's on the so-called Ring of Fire. It's named that because of volcanoes and fault lines in that area. So people are used to earthquakes. At the same time, it's a very frightening experience.
Top US officials on visits to Asia have spoken out against China's behavior in the Indo-Pacific. Vice President Kamala Harris and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin heavily criticized what they called Beijing's intimidation and coercion and its increasingly dangerous actions. With more, FSN's Nick Harper from our Washington bureau.
Well, all of this unfolded during Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to the Philippines and the island of Palawan in the South China Sea. She made it very clear that the trip was about countering the rise of China. Harris promised that America stood ready to defend the Philippines if Beijing launched an attack in the contested South China Sea.
The United States stands with the Philippines in the face of intimidation and coercion.
As we heard there, Harris didn't directly name China, but it's clear which country she was referring to.
The US Supreme Court has ruled once again that Donald Trump must hand over his tax returns to a House of Representatives committee. The court dismissed the former president's latest effort to block the US Treasury Department from handing the files over to Democrats who remain in control of the House of Representatives until January. In the world of football, two major stories today. Cristiano Ronaldo's time with Manchester United is at an end. He's leaving the club with immediate effect. Both sides said the decision was mutual. It followed a controversial interview in which Ronaldo said he felt betrayed by the club and had no respect for manager Erik ten Hag. At the World Cup, Argentina has suffered one of the biggest shock defeats in the tournament's history. The team went down 2-1 at the hands of Saudi Arabia. Correspondent Joe Rawson is in Qatar.
Yeah, what a moment for Saudi Arabia. A huge shock, possibly the biggest shock in terms of World Cup group history. The celebrations here in Qatar, as you can imagine, the first Middle Eastern country to get a victory. It has been going crazy.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, an eyewitness account of the situation in the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson, liberated by the country's forces after months of Russian occupation. It comes from Georgia Tacey. She is the Ukraine program coordinator for the Save the Children Fund, and she's just returned from Kherson to the capital, Kyiv.
Driving into Kherson, you can see that it was indeed a bitter battleground in terms of block after block of just destroyed houses and grocery stores and gas stations, only to enter the town which is heavily mined right now, with the people who have been without water and food for over 2 weeks, no power. The hospitals have some amazing staff that have stayed on. However, they have found themselves in a pretty dire situation. A lot of their materials and equipment have been looted. Medical instruments to surgical tables to wheelchairs to frozen food. So whilst they have an amazing committed staff of surgeons and nurses, they aren't equipped with what they need, particularly as they're approaching winter. People are relieved that it has been retaken, but they have a long road ahead of them to recovery.
She says NGOs are pivotal in getting water, food and cash to residents of Kherson, but the biggest challenge is dealing with Russia's efforts to destroy Ukraine's energy infrastructure just as the hard Ukrainian winter sets in. The main news again. Desperate efforts continue in Indonesia to find anyone still alive beneath the rubble of yesterday's earthquake that hit West Java. Top US officials on visits to Asia have spoken out against China's behaviour in the Indo-Pacific. Cristiano Ronaldo has left Manchester United with immediate effect, and in a World Cup stunner, Argentina lost 2-1 to Saudi Arabia. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Gourmet chef Ted Allen is here. He's the author of the new cookbook, Pretentious Foodie Bullshit, and he's going to show us how to cook some fussy little foodie dishes for you and all your asshole friends. Welcome back to the show, Ted. What sort of stupid, over-elaborate, fancy-ass meal are you going to make for us today?
We're going to cook one of the very most pretentious dishes in my cookbook.
Oh.
It's a stupid, trendy piece of fish coated in some kind of nut you've never heard of, served alongside a puree of baby something or other.
Oh, great!
Sounds annoying.
Let's get started.
Okay, have at it.
First, it's very important to choose the most expensive type of fish you can find for some vague environmental reason that you can then parrot back to your faux intellectual gay wad dinner party guests.
Okay.
And now I assume all these other ingredients are organic and locally sourced and all that bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what about the pureed baby turnips, Ted?
You must blanch them for 30 seconds, then you shock them in an ice bath. Peel them, then boil them again with a little sugar, thyme, and a pinch of salt.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join the show here. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Your thoughts on the controversy, I guess, behind drag shows. Apparently, conservatives are all up in arms about parents who want to... I'm not calling you a conservative.
Child drag shows. Let's be clear here. I don't think conservatives give a flip about fully grown adults.
Dude, they absolutely
dancing.
Yes, they do.
This whole thing started
10
with
years ago. They don't care right now.
This whole thing started with Drag Queen Story Hour at the library. That's how all of this started 3 or 4 years ago. And it's just been going and getting more and more psychotic since.
Let me give you, I think that's a good way to put this, that the fervor is continuing to ratchet up. I mean, it's so crazy.
Who attends Storytime Hour?
Kids.
Children.
Kids. That's what the conservatives are up in arms about.
What's wrong with having a drag queen doing that?
I don't understand why people are so upset.
Why do they have to go dressed in full cars?
You don't have to take your kids to it.
Why does anyone care?
To go read to some kids. Why? No.
Why not? What's the harm in exposing the kids to it?
I'm just asking the question. Why? Why does a fully grown man or woman?
What difference does it make?
Get all in get up and go and sit down with some kids
It's their thing, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly, and that's the question you need to be asking.
What?
Why aren't you asking this damn question?
Because it's
why do
irrelevant.
fully grown adults want to have anything to do with, like, when it comes to sexualization like that with
That's
kids?
not sexualization.
Dressing up in scantily clothing?
No one said these people were dressing scantily.
Right, that's the problem here, Conan. People keep saying drag is scantily dressed, and it is not necessarily that.
Necessarily.
The ones doing Drag Queen Story Hour were not wearing G-strings.
There was one just last year. There was one that had a big dildo. This is one in England. Hanging out. We talked about this on the show.
I remember the one you're talking about. That was not a typical thing, though. There was something weird about that from the very beginning. That is not a good example of anything.
No. But it happens. And if they had their way and they could get away with it, they'd all be doing it. They'd have dildos all over their heads. They'd be in there with their bikinis, and they'd have the kids sitting in their laps, and they'd be sniffing them like Biden. We know this happens. We know these people exist. Why are you closing your minds to this? Holy crap, man.
You don't have to take your kids to these things, man. Look, if you walk into the
most people, especially the upset conservatives, don't do this.
Okay.
But there is a certain...
If you walk into the room and they've got a dildo strapped to their forehead, you just turn around and you walk back out, man. You walk back out. That's all you got to do.
The people who would have walked out would have never gone in the first place.
Okay.
Dude, I don't know. I would go to a Drag Queen Story Hour, but if I walked in and someone had a dildo on their forehead, I'm out, man.
All right, wait.
No,
All right,
thank
so
you.
I'm going to just give you an example here because, like, I can see what you're saying if it was what you're saying it is, Conan, but 99% of the time, it's not going to be that. These guys flipping out over, look, right here, Libs of TikTok. This was posted. I didn't have to scroll down far. November 18th on their Twitter.
4 days ago.
Okay. A theater in North Carolina is hosting a drag show where they advertise that minors can come. And also, the show, quote, may contain adult themes, unquote. Why are kids being invited to attend a, quote, adult-themed, unquote, drag performance?
Okay.
And then they show the actual flyer here where it says, children 16 and under must be accompanied by a parent or guardian.
I would hope.
Performance may contain adult themes. Parental discretion is advised.
Adult theme can be just about anything.
Yeah, that's what they're flipping out about. This is the exact same kind of flyer that was being promoted here in Keene, where it said, look, some of this might not be appropriate for children. Use your discretion, basically, if you're going to bring your kids
and
to this event.
And then you get used to these events being all kosher, and then you have the one dude with the dildo on his forehead that slips in.
That's not what they're freaking
It's
out
cumulative.
about.
It builds and builds, and you become okay with it. And before you know it, you got dildos on your head.
Okay, let's go to Major Payne here. He's in Michigan. You're on Free Talk Live.
Good Lord, boys, you're riding this horse hard. I called in to give Conan some backup.
All right,
but I'm gonna give you guys a disclaimer. If you are ever dissatisfied with the quality or content of the programming here, your cover charge will be cheerfully refunded.
Yes, indeed. Which is to say zero.
The grandma thing, the library reading that she was talking about, they got this whole thing fired up. You would expect grandma to be in there reading, not some. I don't even know how to describe this thing.
Drag queen? Drag queen is how you would describe this person.
A man wearing women's clothing.
Well, a cross-dresser would be kind.
Or you could just call them drag queens like they call themselves.
Well, I don't think anything. Who decided you were a queen?
Well, I do have to agree with this. Like, I think you have to rise to a certain level of performance, right, before you're a queen. I mean, if I just go and put on some of Bonnie's clothes, which probably wouldn't fit very well, but if I were to just put on Bonnie's clothes...
That's going drag.
Call them drag performers, then.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be good at it, right? I wouldn't be doing the makeup very well. I probably wouldn't look fabulous or whatever, right? So, like, there's a certain level where you actually get to... I'm just saying, I think at least... Queen status.
If this happened in a hillbilly bar, it wouldn't be riding the news cycle for a week, and you guys certainly wouldn't be talking about it.
No, because the hillbilly bar would kill the person, or
Yeah,
at
they wouldn't
least
have gotten to 5
put them in the
shots.
hospital.
Yeah.
Well, there was 2 military dudes in the drag bar.
There were.
And
That's an actual pretty good point.
Military doesn't mean hillbilly, though.
And he was there with his family having a birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like I said, I called in to give Conan some backup.
All right.
The 10-year-olds should not be in this environment. They should be out hunting frogs.
Okay, but you can have your opinion about how other people should raise their kids, but they're always going to be different than you, right? Like there's always going to be somebody that's got a family that has different values than you, right? And some people would say that having your kids go out and shoot things is also child abuse, right?
Or child endangerment.
Whatever. And I don't agree with any of those opinions, because to me, it's all up to those families. If you want to go out and go hunting with your kids, great. Have at it. Just,
I don't care.
Don't shoot a person. And if you want to go to a drag show with your kids, good. Have
all right, well, let's take it to the horrific level. What if that parents like having sex with their kids? Well, I mean, that we've pretty much across the board have decided that's not okay. And yet that's becoming normalized.
You can't just jump straight into raping children when we're talking about drag shows, man. You have to draw some sort of connection.
That is where this is going.
There's no connection whatsoever.
No, there absolutely is. This is the step in between. Kids
There's
dressing
1,000 steps in between there.
There's
and
not that many.
No,
there's not that many at all.
To the other.
This is the step in between kids dressing up like whatever they like girls.
You might as well be saying that you can't normalize homosexuality, because then the gay men are going to come have sex on your front porch or whatever. Just like they were freaking out back in the 90s about homosexuality, they're just freaking out now about drag queens, and you're parodying.
No one's talking about homosexuals anymore.
That's why I said back in the 90s. You're talking about drag queens now, and in 30 years they'll be talking about something else. But you're doing nothing but parodying the same
having sex with kids.
Cody, you're doing nothing but parodying the same nonsense now about drag queens that people were saying about homosexuals in the 90s.
So alarmist,
and yet no one is talking about homosexuals these days.
And no one will be talking about drag queens in 20 years.
Yes, because it will have moved on to the next level.
People will be like, oh my God, you remember those people who were freaking out about men wearing women's clothes?
Major, any final comments? Go ahead.
You guys are trying to normalize abnormality. It's just not right.
What is normal, Major?
I know that's where you guys are coming at this. It's like, what is normal?
I mean, you're sitting in the room with a trans person.
It's whoever. I have never seen you with kids. I have never seen you twerking.
No,
I have never
kids.
seen you hitting on me or any of these things that I probably would see as a problem.
Well, you're not her type.
I see.
You never seen most drag queens doing that either.
Thank you, Major, for the call. Appreciate it.
I don't know a whole lot of drag queens, actually, so I just have libs of TikTok to go by.
Yeah, the most sensationalized ones that are feeding you
fear-mongering
stuff. They find the worst
clips they can possibly find, and they can, and there's just not that many of them.
But they've proven that they exist.
And they're trying to act like a normal drag show is somehow this terrible thing to take young people to. More coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Is Free Talk Live, and you can join the show here. You can bring up whatever you want. Just talking about the drag queen controversy. The conservatives are flipping out.
Drag performers.
Plus Conan. Flipping out.
Of course I'm going to flip out. Child endangerment.
Over what is being blown way out of proportion. I mean, I just want to find a good example of what you're talking about, Conan, which is to say that there's all this sexualization and there's children involved and all that. And I'm going down the Libs of TikTok channel because they're probably the most commonly posting this kind of stuff, like, oh, the worst of the drag show.
Yeah, they post the worst of the worst. So if you're trying to find it, it seems like it should be relatively easy to go there.
I'm trying it.
It's a fine line of what they can get away with. They can't put some naked kid on a stage dancing for dudes. But they do it all the time. There was a movie about it called Cuties. Yep,
I didn't see the movie, but they weren't naked.
They weren't naked, but they were half naked. They were mostly naked. And then there's beauty pageants and stuff and the cheerleading competitions and dance competitions that kids do half naked all the time.
Yeah, and a lot of these same conservative guys that are angry about drag shows are going to be happy for their kids going to the cheerleading competitions. And to me, cheerleading competitions are all about having young girls dancing for dudes at a sporting event. Isn't that exactly what's going on there? And hasn't that been going on for decades?
How often do you have people in the crowd handing dollar bills to your local cheerleader?
They would if they could get away with it.
They don't give them money, no. But when I was in college, I worked at a casino that every year they hosted one of these events, and it was absolutely disgusting.
Oh, the cheerleading
The cheerleading competitions. It was almost as bad as anything you would find in Cuties. And I've only ever seen the trailers from Cuties, and it's absolutely horrible. But it was not far off from what the reality of these cheerleading competitions were actually like.
I'm not going to argue with that. I think that...
But that's normal. No one bats an eye about that.
They're not posting videos and freaking out about cheerleading or these beauty pageants
and
or
nothing
whatever.
like that is happening in these drag shows.
Okay, I got another one here from Libs of TikTok. We're going to go back to your phone calls here in a moment. But this one posted also November 18th. I just scrolled down further past the last one we talked about where they were freaking out over a simple advertisement for a normal drag show. No one was alleging anything, sexual with kids was going on at this drag show. It was just that they were simply to even allow people under 16 in with parental consent. That was supposed to be this outrageous thing. And now here's another one. This one is a video clip. So they actually had somebody shooting video inside this particular event. And the video clip, I will describe it to you. There's a couple of performers. They appear to have had some sort of breast augmentation done because they actually have large breasts. And
they could be breast forms.
Well, whatever the hell they are.
It's not impossible.
They look like
some
boobs,
of them are very expensive.
Right? It's a blurry video, right? Like I don't know what it is. But anyway, men dressing as women purportedly with large breasts are on stage, one on stage, and then there's another one walking around collecting tips. And so, yeah, you can see some cleavage, okay, right? So that's going on in this show. Here's what they headlined.
You see cleavage at Starbucks?
You'll see a little more on this show, but that's what's going on the stage and in the show. But here's what they wrote about it. South Dakota State University held a, quote, family-friendly, unquote, drag show where they encouraged kids to bring cash to tip the drag queens. Here's some footage of the family-friendly drag event. Number one, no proof that it was actually marketed in this way. They don't link to the flyer. The last one they had the flyer.
Who was reporting this?
Libs of TikTok.
All right, so Libs actually wrote that.
This is Libs of TikTok's description of this event. Quote unquote family friendly. Well, how hard would it have been to link to the advertisement? I just want to see the proof, right? But secondly, they say kids were encouraged to bring cash to tip the drag queens. Well, there's an entire section of this video. Now, it's not a long video. It's about a 40-second video. But about half of the video is a drag queen walking around the audience collecting tips. Not one tip from a child. Not one child is visible in the audience. So I fail to see what the concern is here. Again, I would be fine if a parent brought their kids to the show because that's their business, that's their choice. But they don't even have that in this, and they make this big deal out of it. This video's got 220,000 views on it. You know it's getting passed around. It's got 400-something quote tweets, 2,400 retweets. People are all upset about this, and there's not even a shred of evidence that what they suggested was supposed to happen at this show actually did happen.
I had something similar happen with a friend on Facebook. He posted one of these videos about, one of these drag queens singing some very sexualized lyrics. I don't know what it was, Cardi B or something. I can only speculate. And there was a child present, apparently. It was a bunch of middle-aged women in some sort of cafe or coffee shop. I don't know what it was. I didn't even see the kid, right? Because it was one kid with her parents or her grandmother, her aunt or her mom or whatever. And she's standing directly in front of an adult. Like, I'm sorry that my sense don't immediately zero in on the child and focus on that when there's a room full of adults. Like most healthy adults, I look at the adults, right? But it was one child with her parents or with her mother.
And what was going on with the drag queen?
She was just singing. She was just lip syncing to some raunchy lyrics.
No grinding?
No grinding.
No dildo?
But there was dancing.
Okay. Lots of breast showing or anything like that?
No, nothing like that. Just
nothing like that.
Lip syncing to some provocative lyrics.
I'm just going to guess that if you pulled up whatever the hell song that was, Cardi B or whoever it was, and pulled up the actual music video, that the content of the music video will be far more sexual than whatever was going on that stage. I'll put money on it.
Yeah, I would absolutely back your bet.
Yeah. That's all of her videos. And how many of those videos has that same kid who went to this event already seen and probably a huge fan of Cardi B?
Exactly. And seen without her parents being in the room.
Correct.
Right? At least in this case,
okay,
you have
that's
parental
but that's not okay either.
Well, how are you going to stop that?
You can't stop it unless you ban it from the internet.
Unless you take their technology away from them.
Yeah, and good luck with that.
And then she's going to see it at school, or her friends are going to show
computer,
it to her, or whatever.
Or they're going to she's going to sneak off, and she's going to.
I mean, you can't protect people from the realities of the world in which they live.
But you can prevent by not normalizing these events to take place. I mean, you can say, hey,
we lost that war a long time ago. Cardi B is normal.
Every generation has lost that war because every newer generation that's moving up through the ranks has figured what is taboo and what they need to get away with in order to get their jollies.
I think the problem is making things taboo because then you force things underground and it gets worse.
The collapse, when all of a sudden we're all living in caves again and we're all farming and we're all hunting toads.
See,
like
you say
Dude
all
said.
this is going downward. In my estimation, it's all going upward.
Let me go to the phones here. Jack is on the line.
This is
in
the
Washington.
absolutely end of the empire.
Jack, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi there.
Hey, what's on your mind?
I grew up in Portland. I lived there for 20 years. I used to go to some Darnell's on Burnside, which had shows almost daily. Embers, which was a great gay bar. Fox and Hound. Any of those places, though, I don't know if it's because I'm older, I'm 40-ish, but if I would have looked, when I was grinding and dancing and saw, a family and an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old sitting there, just my own, the way I was raised or indoctrinated, I would have been uncomfortable.
Are you an actual dancer, a performer?
No, I'm just dancing on the stage.
Well, see, that's the difference between a performer and someone who would have just been dancing. A performer has a job to do, and they're going to do that job.
Okay, but I got more questions for you here, Jack. Stand by. We're going to bring you back here because it's not clear. He sounded like he said he was performing.
Or maybe just dancing.
Or just dancing on a stage,
Right.
which is technically performing, I think. But whether you're getting paid for it or not, I guess makes a difference as to whether you're professional. Anyway, we'll find out more about Jack's experience. He said he did this for like a decade or two, so more coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Desperate efforts continue in Indonesia to find anyone still alive beneath the rubble of yesterday's earthquake that hit West Java with a magnitude of 5.6. At least 268 people are known to have been killed, including many children who were at school at the time of the quake. More than 2,000 homes have been damaged or destroyed, and at least 1,000 people were injured. Nicola Smith is Asia correspondent for Britain's Daily Telegraph newspaper.
It's about 100 kilometres west of Jakarta, and there are small towns, villages that are very hard to reach. Indonesia, unfortunately, experiences a lot of earthquakes. It's on the so-called Ring of Fire. It's named that because of volcanoes and fault lines in that area. So people are used to earthquakes. At the same time, it's a very frightening experience.
Top US officials on visits to Asia have spoken out against China's behaviour in the Indo-Pacific. Vice President Kamala Harris and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin heavily criticised what they called Beijing's intimidation and coercion and its increasingly dangerous actions. With more, FSN's Nick Harper from our Washington bureau.
Well, all of this unfolded during Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to the Philippines and the island of Palawan in the South China Sea. She made it very clear that the trip was about countering the rise of China. Harris promised that America stood ready to defend the Philippines if Beijing launched an attack in the contested South China Sea.
The United States stands with the Philippines in the face of intimidation and coercion.
As we heard there, Harris didn't directly name China, but it's clear which country she was referring to.
The US Supreme Court has ruled once again that Donald Trump must hand over his tax returns to a House of Representatives committee. The court dismissed the former president's latest effort to block the US Treasury Department from handing the files over to Democrats, who remain in control of the House of Representatives until January. In the world of football, two major stories today. Cristiano Ronaldo's time with Manchester United is at an end. He's leaving the club with immediate effect. Both sides said the decision was mutual. It followed a controversial interview in which Ronaldo said he felt betrayed by the club and had no respect for manager Erik ten Hag. At the World Cup, Argentina has suffered one of the biggest shock defeats in the tournament's history. The team went down 2-1 at the hands of Saudi Arabia. Correspondent Joe Rawson is in Qatar.
Yeah, what a moment for Saudi Arabia. A huge shock, possibly the biggest shock in terms of World Cup group history. The celebrations here in Qatar, as you can imagine, the first Middle Eastern country to get a victory. It has been going crazy.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160 here in the studio tonight. It's Ian.
Aria.
And Conan.
And we're talking about the drag show controversy where conservatives are getting their panties all in a bunch because some people think it's okay to take their kids to a place where men dress like women and sing pop songs on stage. And this conservatives want you to believe that every drag show is actually somehow sexually objectifying children and or strip shows, and it's just this terrible experience. It's going to bring society down, this whole thing. And if you want to comment, you're welcome to join us here. By the way, I do want to say thanks to Bitcoin.com, longtime sponsors here on Free Talk Live. Bitcoin.com is where you can go if you want to start learning about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And look, there's a lot in the news these days about crypto, specifically with regards to the FTX exchange. I just spoke to somebody today. I was auditing the Bitcoin map, coinmap.org here in New Hampshire, calling around to businesses that are on the map to see if they're still taking Bitcoin.
And they lost a lot of money, FTX?
FTX is going out of business.
No, but the person you talked to had a bad problem with it.
No. I called up this business to see if they were still taking Bitcoin. The owner called me back after I left a message, and he said he never did take Bitcoin. So I don't know how the hell he ended up on the map, but he said people were trying to get him to take Bitcoin, and then he specifically cited FTX and said he said, oh, there was this FTX and people are getting out of crypto. And I said crypto's going to be fine. Bitcoin is going to be fine. Don't worry, but have a nice day. I just wanted to see if you were still taking, crypto.
You should have mentioned if your favorite celebrity is, lambasting the merit of a certain cryptocurrency, that's when you need to stand back and take a look and reconsider.
Beware, you mean?
Oh yeah, it was the same thing with the monkey images. NFTs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Bitcoin.com, you should learn the basics about crypto before you decide to buy into some of it, and it might be a good time to get in, although some people think it's going to keep going down in price. Bitcoin today was at around $16,000 per unit. Of course, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can get a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can get 1% or less. It's up to you, but you should learn the basics first. So click Get Started at the top of the page at Bitcoin.com. If you're not brand new and you want to acquire some crypto or perhaps get the latest news headlines, you can go to news.bitcoin.com and they have those there. We go back to Jack. He's on the line in Ocean Shores, Washington. Jack, you said you were raised up in Portland, and then when you were an adult, you started going to gay clubs in town and either performing on stage. Tell me a little bit more about that experience.
That kind of got lost a little, but basically I hung around those places late 90s, early 2000s, and I thought it'd be weird if there were children. And I like drag shows, I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
But I've attended a lot of Pride events over the years, especially in Portland. And late 90s really is when I started. And, it's changed. The clothes have got like dirtier. It's real mixed, of types, which is fine. I like that. So I think having a child there, which is more, modern, I see children there. It's not about the people's sexuality or their choices, if they're trans or gay. It's just about, the clad dressing. It's uncomfortable. And I think you guys seriously underestimate the amount of photos online at Pride shows, drag shows of inappropriate things around children. And you just have to look. There are a lot of them. They're not all libs on TikTok.
I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying I don't care. Humans are sexual creatures, and I don't think that exposing a minor to the very existence of sexuality is going to harm them in any direction.
No, you're going to have that. You can have that conversation usually pretty young. Usually when they're 10, 11, 12, you have the birds and the bees conversation. And
would there be a problem with pulling out a Playboy magazine?
Maybe not. To say this is where the parts. This is where everything goes. Maybe not. But I
found my first one in a barn. I had to earn it.
Your first Playboy?
Yeah, I found it in a box. I'm like 11 or 12, and I'm like, oh, this is so bad.
Well, that's the thing. I just want to focus on that for a moment. I think that's where a lot of this comes from. The fact that somebody told you at some point before you found that Playboy that this is bad. Now, were you raised in a religious household?
Yes. But
Okay.
not really.
Is that where that message came from? Where did the messaging come from, do you think, that the Playboy was a bad thing?
Oh, my parents were great. Just basically from society.
From society.
I think it's way more endemic in society than just, a conservative upbringing or a Christian upbringing. The very fact that we're all wearing clothes and that it's considered sinful or shameful to be a naturalist or a nudist, that it stems from all of that.
Well, sure. I mean, the Americans had a problem with Puritanism back in the day, right? So it's probably stemming a lot from that. And I think that that's where some of these more, let's call them sexually liberal families are coming from when they are trying to undo or rather not do that damage, try to avoid having that damage done to their kids, because they see that as damage, right? They see the idea of sex being bad or sexuality being bad or nudity being bad as damaging, whereas others, the conservative side of people, say sex is bad, sex is damaging, it is hurting children. And it's like they're just two completely different philosophies on how kids should be raised.
The right has moved, the conservatives have moved further to the center in this conversation. They don't have a problem with homosexuals any longer because that's been beaten to death. Now there's something else to be hateful of. But it's not really, the big concern here isn't people having these discussions or performing these types of sex acts when they're adults. The problem is that when you bring kids into the equation, so then the next question is, when is a kid not a kid? When can a kid actually not just have the birds and the bees conversation, but actually let's talk about and have sex? When is that age appropriate?
I want to point out that we're having two different conversations here, because I pointed out that, I don't think there's anything of necessarily bad in the sexualization of Pride Parade or, just sexualization in general. But that's not what a drag show necessarily is. That's not what any of these drag shows necessarily are.
I know we keep going back to this and butting heads on this. I'm talking about that 1%. I'm talking about that dude who goes to Story Hour with the dildo. That's the one guy out of 100, and those
parents
all it takes.
Can walk out,
and they sneak in and they do this, and they're going to continue to get away with what they can until it's normalized and no one even notices anymore.
It's up to the parents to not tolerate that if that's something that they think is inappropriate.
Okay, and that's something that
walk out.
and it's something.
If no one comes to see that guy give a story, he ain't going to get invited back next time. Jack, any other comments?
Well, if you type inappropriate behavior at a drag show onto Google or Yahoo or the main search engines, you're going to get a liberal, muted view of it.
Smorgasbord.
If you do a little research, you're going to see videos that there's a lot of them.
I just don't care. That's the thing. To me, it just doesn't matter at all because I don't care how family wants to raise their kids. Look, I don't care if a liberal family wants to take their kids to a strip show. It's none of my damn business. And in the same way, I don't care if a super conservative family, the FLDS cult, wants to raise their kids in some sort of crazy incest cult, which is what they do out there, by the way. The FLDS, they basically share around their children with each other, and they, it's a crazy thing. But I'm not going to send a SWAT team in there to stop it, and I'm not going to pay to put those people in a prison cell either. Now, what I might be willing to do is help them kids escape from a situation like that, but it's otherwise none of my damn business.
That's what a lot of liberal teachers that you will find on TikTok actually believe that they're doing. They believe that they are saving these kids from these crazy conservative parents who are saying sex is bad, and there's only two genders and da-da-da-da-da.
If those conservative parents are smart, they'd stop sending their kids to the government school and homeschool them, and then they can inculcate them into whatever sort of cockamamie ultra right-wing religion that they want to. There's more coming up here in moments. The number 603-283-6160. You can join us here. It's Free Talk Live.
The ultimate bargain is free. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Before you can fully type the Buy Nothing Project, Google will finish it for you. It's that popular now. Their mission statement is buy less, share more. It makes us all richer and our planet cleaner. You can give away or ask for whatever you want free. Appliances, workout gear, concert and event and travel tickets. And intangibles. Offer the world your photo or poem or short story. Offer people near you that stack of bricks or fish tank you want to get rid of. Check it out at buynothingproject.org and the Buy Nothing app for Apple and Android devices. And poke around Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 15th through the 18th. forkfest.party. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join the show here, and you can bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian,
Aria,
and Conan.
And you can join us online anytime you want. Just head over to freetalklive.com and enjoy the features. We appreciate the support of listeners like Indie Gun Church, who's a Free Talk Live AMPS supporter. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support Free Talk Live. It's a way for you to help us. Indie Gun Church is doing gold level, which is twice what we ask. We only ask $5 a month. So thank you, Indie Gun Church, for stepping up and helping support this program where we will talk about things that could be a little bit uncomfortable for some people to listen to, take a position of liberty, even though we don't all necessarily agree. One thing that generally libertarians agree on is even if we don't agree how to raise kids or how to live our life or whatever lifestyle choices we might make, generally libertarians say you should be free to make a mistake, that you should be free to do something different and experience whatever those consequences are that life brings you from that, and that we don't want the government to legislate against these things. So despite what you've been saying here tonight, Conan, you wouldn't want to see government legislation against drag show, story hour.
Oh, absolutely not.
This, right?
But let's be clear, though. We're talking about grown adults who are capable of making decisions on their own and living and experiencing those decisions. When you start bringing kids into the equation, it changes. It does, in fact, change the conversation.
But you wouldn't change it enough to involve government.
No, absolutely not.
So you wouldn't call DCYF and have kids kidnapped.
I would have never had anything to do with Waco. They had lots of kids in Waco. Mm-hmm. None of my business.
So I want to get into another, not clip here, but there's an excerpt from a conversation on Twitter with Jeremy Kauffman, who made a statement earlier today, it looks like, about drag shows. And, of course, he's setting people off with this opinion, and we'll share that coming up here in moments.
Kaufman's a troll? Because that seemed like
I'm pretty sure he's saying what he really believes in this particular case, even though you may qualify it as trolling.
Right,
sometimes he trolls, sometimes he's genuine. I mean, that's the mark of a good troll.
Because he knows this is going to set people off.
Right, and it did.
We'll get into it. But first, let's go to Joe in Maryland. You're on Free Talk Live. Joe, what's on your mind tonight?
Hey, how you doing, Ian?
Hey, what's on your mind, Joe?
Arian, how you doing, Tim?
What's up, dude?
I saw a couple trends, and what do you call it? The strategic.
You just broke up there. You said you saw trends. What now?
A couple trends here. The strategic gas supply is supposed to weeks.
I think you're saying the strategic oil supply is going to run out?
Yeah. Well, not run out completely. Like they put it to saturate the market so that people wouldn't be paying higher prices. But that's supposed to dry up pretty soon.
Okay, this is what it was Biden that did this. It was earlier this year, right? He authorized the release of this oil from this strategic supply,
right up to the election, and some have surmised that it was specifically to alleviate the pain that the voters were feeling, and which might cause them to vote a certain way.
Right. So you're saying that oil is going to run out, and so therefore your prediction is oil prices are going to start going up again.
Yeah, but not only that, obviously, and they're all negotiating with the train, different train companies and stuff like that, and they're possibly predicting a strike for 2 weeks.
A what?
So what I would
strike?
Yeah, a strike for the trains.
And that would do what? Stop oil from being delivered on train lines?
No, that would stop like food, soap.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that to keep yourself clean and keep your family, keep your family healthy. And I was just suggesting that maybe, the folks should stock up a little bit.
Now, if there is a strike on the train lines, I mean, that still doesn't mean the drivers, professional drivers, truck drivers won't be moving.
Yeah,
I mean, products are still going to move.
Yeah, but how much do they actually carry compared to rail lines?
I don't know. I would suspect drivers are doing more than the rail.
I think they're picking up product at the rail lines and they're taking them to the actual stores. The rail lines is all the stuff's coming on rail.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
And plane.
Yeah, they're laying off some of the truck drivers. I found out too, because in anticipation of the gas prices going up. So it's just free advice. I don't want to say anybody who listens to the show do without.
Thank you for the suggestion, Joe. Anything else you want to share tonight?
My brother, he became a trans person, and he's going to have the operation and stuff. Well, when he told me, I said, well, I love you. We've been together all these years and stuff like that. I'll support you in anything you do. So, you just can't judge people. That's what I'm just trying to say. You just can't judge people and stuff like that.
Thank you, Joe, for the call. Appreciate hearing from you tonight. Some opinions from our chat server over at chat.freetalklive.com.
Oh, these will be priceless.
President DeSantis says Conan is letting the internet meme conspiracy culture take up too much space in his head. There are more important things.
I'm sorry if half of if just one or two of these shootings are set up by some department.
Mm-hmm.
I think that needs to be talked about and needs to be known.
If only it could be proven, right?
Well, I mean, we're finding out all the time. The FBI and the CIA and all these agencies they've done all kinds of things in the past. Have they cleaned up their wicked ways? Have they changed their ways? No, they haven't.
He says there's no point if a drag show is a strip show. There are men and women underneath. The illusion is the point of the whole show, he says. Further that...
What does that mean? The illusion.
He's saying drag isn't strip.
The illusion is the covering up of the sexual nature behind the dancing. That's the illusion.
I don't think that's where the illusion lies, but
that's what they're trying to cover up.
Look, if you watch one of these drag shows and you're aroused, that says a lot more about you than I think it does the performers.
Absolutely. He says drag is visual parody. There's nothing sexy about watching Divine lip sync. I guess Divine he capitalizes the D, so this must be one of the drag singers. He says, this is getting so retarded, I'm on the verge of calling in. And so I said, yeah, you should definitely call in. Would love to hear from folks on this issue.
I'd like to talk to DeSantis.
Yeah.
See what he's all about. Talk about deep state.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Visual parody.
Mm-hmm. So here's what Jeremy said. He posted this 6 hours ago on his Twitter, @Jeremy Kaufman. Unpopular opinion. Bullet point. There should be areas where drag shows for kids are legal and safe. Bullet point. There should be areas where drag shows for kids are disallowed. We do not, in fact, need all 8 billion people to agree on this issue.
How about cut those first two parts? Private property, period. Let's not have this. Why do 8 billion people have to have this conversation?
That's what he's saying. I mean, look, this is a private property issue. You don't want to have drag shows? Don't have a drag show.
Yep.
Go
you
to
don't
church.
Want to go to one? Don't go to one.
Right. Go to church and have your, church performance or whatever. Have your little play.
Or go to your sports ball event and watch your young teenage girls doing the same exact thing.
Then somebody, Top Lobster, responds. He says, unfortunately, that isn't possible. The insatiable desire of the progressive mind to manipulate children cannot be understated.
It's fascinating how these conservatives, they create this boogeyman of people who are on the left, and they just become so irrational and so insane about the specter, the boogeyman of the leftist, the progressive out there trying to corrupt everything and everyone. And you have to watch your shadows because they're out there. They're coming for you.
We had a hard time.
They're in your room right now. Are they here, Conan? Can you see them?
We had a hard time actually finding kids dancing on stage. Desmond was the only one I even really know about. But what you can find on
Libs dancing fully clothed.
But what you can find on Libs of TikTok is scores of these teachers, these new woke teachers, talking about how we own your kids, how we will indoctrinate. They straight out
get your kids out of those government schools.
Say, Screw you conservative parents, screw you religious types, screw all you right-wingers. I have possession of your kids, and I am going to raise your kids in my image.
They're not
straight
wrong.
out saying it.
They're not wrong.
But before it was just like, I'm going to teach your kids math and English and da-da-da.
No, it's messed up. There's
And
no doubt.
yes, you would have those teachers who would bring their values to the classroom.
You're not going to get me to disagree with you, Conan.
But they would never say it. They would never say it outright.
It's right there now, in your face.
Oh, yes, it was so much better when they were secretly brainwashing children.
So when you talk about the boogeyman exists.
The boogeyman has always been there.
But now they're out in the open. They're not in the closet anymore. They're out in the
taking
open.
your kids to public school.
Good point.
No, here's what you do. You don't send your kids to the government school. You go to homeschool or you get to a private school that's got your values. And then if the conservatives really wanted to make a statement, they'd stop paying property taxes.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And by the way, I don't know what the numbers
they're
are.
cowards.
The numbers are countrywide, but I know that in New Hampshire, school enrollment is way down compared to last year.
That's true.
And compared to 2020 as well. It's going down every single year, and I suspect the rest of the country is following suit. And yes, before you know it, they're like, why are we paying property taxes for these damn TikTok teachers to say that they own our kids? Let's just keep our money in our pockets.
If you thought the first response to Jeremy's post was bad, wait till you hear the second one. More coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Supreme Court has refused a request from former President Donald Trump to block the release of his tax returns. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The House Ways and Means Committee has been fighting since 2019 to see the former president's tax returns. Donald Trump escalated that legal fight last month, filing an emergency petition with America's highest court, requesting a permanent block on the release of his taxes. But the Supreme Court has refused that request, meaning the Treasury Department must hand over 6 years of Trump's returns to the committee. The Ways and Means panel argues that it needs the taxes so it can assess the Internal Revenue Service's routine audits on presidential returns. Trump, though, says the motives are purely political. It's been suggested the committee may be looking for conflicts of interest in the taxes, which may have influenced Trump's decision-making while he was president. Nick Harper, Washington.
Portuguese superstar Cristiano Ronaldo has left Manchester United with immediate effect. It comes after an explosive TV interview in which he publicly aired his grievances with the club's senior leadership. FSN's John Beaver reports.
Manchester United were reportedly taking legal advice in a bid to get rid of Cristiano Ronaldo for breach of contract. But in a statement, the club said the 37-year-old was now leaving by mutual consent and thanked him for his 2 spells in Manchester. His departure follows a lengthy interview with the journalist Piers Morgan, in which Ronaldo said the club was trying to force him out, claimed the manager was not showing him enough respect, and accused officials at Manchester United of a lack of empathy when his newborn son died in April. Ronaldo first joined the club as a teenager in 2003, winning numerous trophies and accolades in a 6-year spell. He rejoined in the summer of 2021, but disappointing results and reports for a fractious relationship with teammates and management soon followed. He's currently on international duty with Portugal at the World Cup in Qatar. John Beaver reporting.
U.S. stocks rose sharply Tuesday on hopes that inflation is cooling and interest rate hikes may start to ease in the coming months. But traders remain concerned that China may again tighten its COVID-19 policies. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
Indications from the Federal Reserve that members may be open to slowing the rate of interest rate hikes going forward has boosted sentiment on Wall Street. On Tuesday, that helped offset concerns that China may tighten COVID-19 restrictions again after the country recently reported its first coronavirus-related deaths since May. The Dow Jones closed the day up 1.2%, with both the S&P and Nasdaq ending up 1.4%.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, an eyewitness account of the situation in the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson, liberated by the country's forces after months of Russian occupation. It comes from Georgia Tacey. She is the Ukraine program coordinator for the Save the Children Fund, and she's just returned from Kherson to the capital, Kyiv.
Driving into Kherson, you can see that it was indeed a bitter battleground in terms of block after block of just destroyed houses and grocery stores and gas stations, only to enter the town which is heavily mined right now, with the people who have been without water and food for over 2 weeks, no power. The hospitals have some amazing staff that have stayed on. However, they have found themselves in a pretty dire situation. A lot of their materials and equipment have been looted. Medical instruments, to surgical tables, to wheelchairs, to frozen food. So whilst they have an amazing committed staff of surgeons and nurses, they aren't equipped with what they need, particularly as they're approaching winter. People are relieved that it has been retaken, but they have a long road ahead of them to recovery.
She says NGOs are pivotal in getting water, food and cash to residents of Kherson, but the biggest challenge is dealing with Russia's efforts to destroy Ukraine's energy infrastructure just as the hard Ukrainian winter sets in. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The U.S. Supreme Court refuses a request from former President Trump to block the release of his tax returns. Portuguese superstar Cristiano Ronaldo leaves Manchester United in the wake of an explosive TV interview in which he criticized senior leadership. And U.S. stocks rise sharply on hopes that inflation is cooling and interest rate hikes may start to ease in the coming months. That is the latest Feature Story News. Ira Spitzer reporting.
You're putting your name, address, credit card number, social security number, all that. You're just chucking it right up onto the internet where any disgusting degenerate can grab it. The only way to make sure that your identity is never stolen is to change it every 3 years. That's what I do. 2 years ago, I was Ellen Foxcroft, attorney at law. 3 years before that, I was Trish Homingwood, patient at the Austin State Psychiatric Hospital. And 3 years before that, I was Regina Dupree, lead singer of the soul group Derriere. And you know what? None of my identities has ever been stolen. So to make sure that your personal information stays safe, you gotta follow some simple steps. First, you're gonna need new pieces of identification, right? But don't worry, old Shelby knows a guy up in Detroit, can fix these up pronto, real cheap. Next, you're gonna have to fake your own death. But all that takes is a mold of your teeth, a corpse, and a $500 used car for setting on fire.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. You can join the show here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Aria,
and Conan
talking about the continuing controversy over drag shows. People are really upset over people who want to voluntarily choose to take their kids to a drag show, acting like this is going to be the end of society as we know it. If some kids are allowed to watch some men dress in women's clothing and sing pop songs. Of course, we're expected to believe that all drag shows are actually secretly strip shows where children are being directly sexualized by the performers. But further, some people, not only do they want to prohibit drag shows, but they want to prohibit families from going to those drag shows as well. And, I was just looking at this conversation on Twitter on Jeremy Kaufman's thread. At Jeremy Kaufman is his username, where he says that he thinks there should be areas where drag shows for kids are legal and safe, and there should be areas where drag shows for kids are disallowed, and that we don't need all 8 billion people to agree on this issue. And to me, that seems like a very rational perspective, but the comments...
I can get on board with that.
Yeah, the comments are quite irrational. Top Lobster, who is ostensibly a libertarian, although I'm willing to revoke his card at this point, he says, unfortunately, that isn't possible. The insatiable desire of the progressive mind to manipulate children cannot be understated. And Jeremy responds to him saying, at what level of geography do you support banning drag shows? Your street? Your town? Your state? All of America? The world? The more you believe you have the one truly just moral vision that must dominate everything, the more you risk becoming what you oppose. And so, again,
very well said.
Love that response.
Yep. Or outlawing TikTok, which is what the conservatives are talking about doing right as we speak.
Wow. Top Lobster responds. He says, the state level is a start.
But,
yeah.
No libertarian card for you, man.
Right. But national is ideal, he says.
Good Lord, what's wrong with this guy?
It isn't about superior morality. It's a clear observation of sexual predation disguised as diversity. The question becomes, should we be tolerant of sexual predators at the county, state, national, global level?
Well, I've never seen anything at any of these drag shows that suggests sexual predation. I don't know what drag shows this person's watching.
We just watched one, Arya. They were handing dollar bills to Desmond to dance and go out in the audience with them.
Yeah, the first video, and admittedly, I didn't watch the second video that you and Ian watched, so I can't comment on that one. The first one, you imagined almost all of that. I mean, we saw some people handing the kid money, but we didn't see anything about the people doing it. They could have been male, they could have been female. There were plenty of people there with camcorders. Desmond wasn't in any danger. Everything was totally fine, above the board. Desmond wasn't even break dancing, much less dancing provocatively or wearing anything that was particularly revealing.
Yeah, and they were handing the kid money, and that's what you do with strippers and prostitutes.
That's also what you do to employees or just people who have raked your yard for you.
I don't know any other dancers besides for street performers
okay,
let's
disregard the
money.
dancer thing. Okay, so the next time some kid rakes your leaves for you, you can't pay them. You can't hand them money because you only do that for prostitutes and strippers. I see no difference between...
There is no similarity between a kid actually doing hard work, doing something, and
entertainment is work.
That's not entertainment. There
was nothing provocative about it.
That is one step away from stripping.
Desmond wasn't stripping.
He was being paid money like he was stripping.
He was being paid money like he was breaking the damn law, man.
And he did remove clothing.
Not in the video.
He came out in a trench coat and he took it off.
Okay, taking out a coat.
And he threw it out in the stage like an effing stripper would.
It's called
and he was paid money.
If we're getting so alarmist here that taking off a coat,
I can't believe you guys are defending this. Is what I'm so upset about. I can't believe you've taken it to this level.
It's not my.
But maybe it's because you don't have kids and you don't even like kids.
It's not my thing. I wouldn't go to the show, right? Like I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in seeing kids dance in any shape or form. It's not interesting to me at all. But if that's what somebody wants to do, and if that's what they want their kid to do, that's fine. I think those pageants are just as creepy.
I do too,
personally.
I am more,
and
exactly, and I am more upset with those pageant mothers as I am with Desmond's mother. These people are living vicariously through their kids. They're doing it for attention because it's something they didn't get when they were younger.
And it's weird. And whatever, though. It's their life, man. They should be able to do what they want. What I do not want to see, and I think you agree with this, Conan, despite your vehement feelings on this issue, is you don't want to see, as I asked this top lobster, I said, well, what should happen to people who hold a drag show? Because remember, he said he wanted to prohibit it at the state level at least. So what should happen to people who hold a drag show and parents who voluntarily bring their kids there? Death penalty? Forced re-education camps? Children abducted? He says yes. I mean,
okay, that's
Is he for real?
No.
Is this guy for real?
He should be having the conversation that we're having right now. And on my end, I would, my conversation. I want to have this conversation, and let him do it. If it's as long as they're not harming my kids or my family, let them do whatever. But you know what? As I said before, this is the end of the empire. Every empire, this is where it leads to. It crumbles and it becomes something else. It becomes more conservative because it becomes the norm in order to survive. All of this idle hands can't exist when we're all living in caves again under the bridge or whatever, trying to find our way back to repeating the same damn thing over again.
Yeah, I don't agree with any aspect of that. However, this guy, he can't have this conversation because he's so radicalized. He sees these boogeymen everywhere. That's so he lives in a constant state of fear, every bit as much as the people who were constantly terrified of COVID-19 2 years ago. This is his COVID-19.
I mean, can you imagine believing that kidnapping children from their parents who purportedly love them, right?
Just like people who weren't wearing masks and weren't making their kids wear masks.
I'm
telling you, man, it's his COVID-19.
Yeah, it's no different. Yeah,
but I'm going to say that I know where you're going with that. I'm going to say the same guy who would also be against child protective services coming and taking kids from parents because they think a certain way. I think he's probably going to be against that.
He would be against that, but he wants to use them to take people's parents because they think a way he doesn't like.
Okay, well that's
the problem.
That's a no-go.
That's the problem. You cannot be a libertarian and have that belief that you want to force your beliefs on somebody else. To literally say that there should be re-education camps for parents that don't think the way that you do, or that they should be put to death and their kids should be stripped from them by violence, because that's what it's going to take, right? Yeah. State police are going to come in and steal kids from these people's parents, and that's supposed to help these kids?
And who's going to run these corrective departments? Who's going
Sickos.
Who are going to take criminals and put them to death or put them in jail? The state. So so he's already lost his card.
Well, if we've seen anything from the foster families in the United States, they're not doing it for the welfare of the children.
Doing it for the
paycheck.
paycheck.
For the paycheck.
Yeah.
I've met too many of them.
Or for far more nefarious reasons.
That's true, too. Let's go to David.
I'm glad that you at least admit that those bad people do exist.
They do.
Yeah, but they're not going to strip
they're locking their kids up in cages
drag shows.
And starving
They're trying
them.
to get people's kids from them by saying, look, you can't let them have kids. They're taking them to drag shows. Give me the kids instead.
David in New Mexico. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is all on your content. Oh, by the way, was that my good buddy Jackin in Open Source, Washington earlier?
I think it was, yeah. Yeah, I do.
All right, cool. Hey, man. Hey, Jackin, how you doing? And coincidentally, I'm cross-dressing right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
What are you wearing?
Let me tell you what I'm wearing. I'm, I live like our ancestors do when it's kind of cold in the house because we don't have modern heating systems. We heat with wood, wood, that kind of stuff, wood. And so it's kind of chilly. So you wear that old thing called what's it called again? A nightshirt. And it's a flannel nightshirt, which men used to wear. If you watch those old English theatrical things, and the man's wearing a nightshirt and a nightcap, and he's got carrying a candle around.
Is this like a onesie and it's got the butt flap?
No, that's something else. Although I would like one of those too. Those are comfy.
So you're not cross-dressing then, right?
No, this is because this one's not cut for a man. In fact, they're not in fashion, so you can't find men's nights. Oh, I'm not done, man.
Yeah, I didn't think you were calling to tell us about your wardrobe. Hang on, I'll bring you back for whatever. David in New Mexico. He's got something to say, I think, about this whole drag thing. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can join the show here, especially if you believe in seriously putting parents to death or forcing them into re-education camps over going to drag shows. More coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Gold and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals shipped fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold bag. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Do you prefer to listen to Free Talk Live on your schedule on demand? You can find the link to our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com, which features the daily digest of our radio show 7 days a week. Just drop our RSS feed into your favorite podcast client or subscribe to us on the large platforms if you prefer, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and Stitcher. All the links are at feeds.freetalklive.com. If the daily digests aren't enough for you and you really don't want to miss a moment of Free Talk Live, you can always sign up for our AMPS Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com for just $5 a month, and you'll get the full radio show without recorded commercials. Plus, you'll help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's amps.freetalklive.com to join AMPS, or feeds.freetalklive.com to get our main podcast, or find us on the major podcast platforms. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join us here. 603-283-6160 is the number. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
How are you?
And Conan.
We are talking about this drag show controversy that people are really getting freaked out over, acting like parents choosing to take their kids to a drag show is somehow a real problem. And I just don't see it. I don't get it. I think that, kids performing is creepy. I'm not interested in that, but I just don't care if people want to, take their kids to a drag show, and I don't care if people take their kids to, pageants and other things where kids are on stage performing. I think those events do attract an audience of people that are looking to see that, and I think that's a creepy thing, personally. Yeah. But hey, you should know what you're getting into. If you're putting your kids up on stage, you have no idea who's sitting there watching that.
God, right when you said that, I'm scrolling through Kaufman's Twitter feed, and it ended up on one of those little girl pageants, and they're in their bathing suits. And I
told you, man, it's bad.
It's sickening. And yes, you're right. There are people. A lot of the times, it's just like when you go to it's just like band night. It's your girlfriends and friends, and the other's band's girlfriends and friends that usually attend these things. And it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same thing with these pageants, where it's usually just moms.
You would hope so.
But then
that's not all.
And who's watching from afar?
And to come back to the point about the DCYF or Children's and Families Departments, whatever, they always have different acronyms, but these different bureaucracies whose job it is to supposedly rescue children from abusive households inevitably end up just putting them in another abusive household under the auspices of the foster care system, where if they're not being sexually molested in some way, they're being locked in a cage and starved. This has happened.
Happens all the time. Happens all the time.
And the reason for it, beyond just being a sadistic person or whatever, who's locking these kids in cages, is if they starve them, they don't have to pay as much money for food, right?
Yeah,
they get a check every month to presumably feed and clothe these kids, but if they're starving them and keeping them barely alive, then they buy more crack cocaine or whatever it is, their alcohol or whatever it is that they're into.
Yeah, it's not just a Hollywood trope. It
really happens.
This really happens all the time. And let's not also forget the amount of predators who actually get into these positions of authority. Calling the shots, who you find out years later that they've been sexually abusing kids, or they had their own farms set up where they were just cycling these kids through.
What makes these people, and again, I'm taking Top Lobster at his word here. He's a poster on Twitter, purported libertarian
I can imagine anyone would say that sort of thing like publicly without being willing to stand by it.
Be serious.
Yeah, there's trolling, and then there's that.
These are the wood chipper types.
Yeah, I mean, to say that, death penalty, forced re-education camps, children being abducted is an appropriate response for people going to a drag show just seems absolutely nuts, especially when you keep in mind that the very same cops that we're talking about here, the very same Department of Children and Families, these people have been found to be molesting children and harming children. It's like, what makes you think that your government is going to somehow be free of all these sickos? That's never going to happen. As long as people are being given power over others, you're going to attract the power sick, the ones that are going to wield that power in despicable ways. And there's just no way to avoid that situation. There was a situation here in Cheshire County, New Hampshire. It was within the last few years that a police chief, and I don't remember which town it was, but a police chief in his 60s was finally stopped from molesting and raping children that he had done for God knows how long.
Yep.
And he went to prison for that. But how many decades it was going on for, how many victims he had in that period of time, who knows? The man thought he was untouchable for a period of time. There was another one
for decades.
Yeah, there was another one in Boston where the guy who ended up being the police union boss was doing sick stuff. Right, so there's no shortage of this. We go to back to your calls here. David in New Mexico, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yeah, you brought up a memory for me on that. You're talking about the CPS foster care stuff. But and to answer your question, the reason I'm cross-dressing is because nightshirts for men are not exactly in fashion, and so the one I'm wearing is cut for a woman.
I see. Okay.
And you had mentioned the CPS foster care. Making money off it, skimping on. And you brought back a memory that when I was about 13, my mom temporarily threw me out of the house because I was being raised by a single mom, and they don't know what they're doing really. You need a dude to work with a 13-year-old male. And when I was in this temporary foster home, I actually took those guys to court when I was 13. That was apparently my first court case that I brought, because they were feeding us crap food for the obvious intention of maximizing their monthly income, because they got paid, however many hundreds of dollars per month per kid that they had in their shelter home. And they were feeding us crap food. So I notified the judge in the case that they were feeding us crap food, and they got called on the carpet for it. And
they move you?
Yeah, actually I did. Yep, I left that place and went to a different temporary shelter home. So yes, indeedy. And let me remind you, you're talking about CPS stripping families of kids. I was not convicted. I was not tried. I was not charged. I was not arrested. And there were not even any formal allegations made against me. And CPS was not even involved, but the family court itself stripped my children from me, gave them to a stepfather, and then remember what the stepfather did to my children? He beat them up, and then he's out of their life now as well. That was after he tried to rape their mother.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, so your government, and good, let me tease this since we're talking about strippers. Good news, Ian, you'll like this. There's actually a case at the U.S. Supreme Court right now that could conceivably eliminate not only property taxes, but all taxes by using the document that you're not necessarily fond of. The United States Constitution actually precludes the taxing of property, the taxing of income, and all of that. And the Supreme Court has agreed to hear this case, having worked its way all the way up from state court to federal.
What is the case called?
It's under. I can give you the actual numbers. The plaintiff's name is. Before I ruin it, here it is. Okay, Brunson. The last name is Brunson, and at supremecourt.gov you can find two petitions. First one, number 22-.
All right, I'll put you on hold here if you want to give me the numbers, but I should be able to find it just by the name. But stand by, David. Let's go to Sarah in New Mexico. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yes, they actually want to pay our legislature. There's people other than myself that are planning to pay our legislature and extend it to a longer session.
Oh, no. Well, that's a terrible idea.
And the next month, 2 months. I mean, it's ridiculous.
We don't need more government legislative sessions. There need to be fewer of them. Need to happen less often. They need to stop passing all these stupid laws that nobody reads anyway. Thank you for the call, Sarah. There's more coming up here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We'll find out what David's tax trial is that he's talking about here. It sounds interesting. I don't know what the details are. But there's more on the way, and we will learn about it. And you can share your thoughts as well about whatever's on your mind at 603-283-6160 on Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Supreme Court has refused a request from former President Donald Trump to block the release of his tax returns. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The House Ways and Means Committee has been fighting since 2019 to see the former president's tax returns. Donald Trump escalated that legal fight last month, filing an emergency petition with America's highest court, requesting a permanent block on the release of his taxes. But the Supreme Court has refused that request, meaning the Treasury Department must hand over 6 years of Trump's returns to the committee. The Ways and Means panel argues that it needs the taxes so it can assess the Internal Revenue Service's routine audits on presidential returns. Trump, though, says the motives are purely political. It's been suggested the committee may be looking for conflicts of interest in the taxes, which may have influenced Trump's decision-making while he was president. Nick Harper, Washington.
Portuguese superstar Cristiano Ronaldo has left Manchester United with immediate effect. It comes after an explosive TV interview in which he publicly aired his grievances with the club's senior leadership. FSN's John Beaver reports.
Manchester United were reportedly taking legal advice in a bid to get rid of Cristiano Ronaldo for breach of contract. But in a statement, the club said the 37-year-old was now leaving by mutual consent and thanked him for his 2 spells in Manchester. His departure follows a lengthy interview with the journalist Piers Morgan, in which Ronaldo said the club was trying to force him out, claimed the manager was not showing him enough respect, and accused officials at Manchester United of a lack of empathy when his newborn son died in April. Ronaldo first joined the club as a teenager in 2003, winning numerous trophies and accolades in a 6-year spell. He rejoined in the summer of 2021, but disappointing results and reports for a fractious relationship with teammates and management soon followed. He's currently on international duty with Portugal at the World Cup in Qatar. John Beaver reporting.
U.S. stocks rose sharply Tuesday on hopes that inflation is cooling and interest rate hikes may start to ease in the coming months. But traders remain concerned that China may again tighten its COVID-19 policies. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
Indications from the Federal Reserve that members may be open to slowing the rate of interest rate hikes going forward has boosted sentiment on Wall Street. On Tuesday, that helped offset concerns that China may tighten COVID-19 restrictions again after the country recently reported its first coronavirus-related deaths since May. The Dow Jones closed the day up 1.2%, with both the S&P and Nasdaq ending up 1.4%.
From Bureaus Worldwide.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Is Free Talk Live, and you can join the show here. You can bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian,
Aria,
and Conan.
That's a number for you to dial in and bring up absolutely anything you want to talk about. Also, want to let you know about bullionmax.com/FTL. That is where you can go to get the Silver Starter Kit, which is 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products, plus you get a free gold back. We're big fans of the gold back here on Free Talk Live, and this is an exciting opportunity for you to get one so you can get an idea of the quality of this amazing gold product. But if you've never gotten into, precious metals before, the folks over at bullionmax.com can help you. This is a 1 per household offer. You can only get 1 of these silver starter kits, and you get it at employee pricing if you go to bullionmax.com/FTL. Savvy investors have been getting into precious metals for a long time, and now you can own the most stable assets in recorded history. You got a problem with the government increasing the money supply, inflating the currency? Well, gold and silver have historically been great hedges against inflation. So you can go to bullionmax.com/FTL. You don't have to talk to a salesperson, and your precious metal ship fully insured directly to your home. That's bullionmax.com/FTL to get your silver starter kits. As we continue here, you can bring up anything you want. We're just talking with David in New Mexico. The case name that he cited is Rayland Brunson versus Alma Adams. This is number 22-380 at the Supreme Court. It's an 18-page filing. I have not obviously had a chance to seriously look through it, but it appears that they're really more concerned with the election and January 6th or something rather than taxes. The words tax and taxes
I feel like
appear.
If there was something in the Supreme Court about taxation, we would all have heard about it by now. I mean, some libertarian somewhere in the U.S. would have mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, and the odds, of course, that they're going to turn over taxation just seems pretty unlikely. I mean, the way David presented this was that they could possibly overrule the income tax and the property tax. And it's like, well, they're not going to do that.
No,
Like,
that seems very unlikely.
There's just no chance that that's going to happen. I mean, it would be amazing, of course, if that happened. But just because there's conservatives on the Supreme Court doesn't mean they're against taxes. I mean, the conservatives love taxes just as much as the liberals do.
Yeah, how are they gonna fund the war machine?
They love going to war, right? They love the police state. So I don't know. If there's good news, let us know, David. Definitely appreciate hearing from you either way. But we've been talking about some controversial things here tonight. I feel like we've covered the drag show thing to death. I think
we're
at this
beating
point.
we're beating that horse to death. Let's get off of it.
It'll be back.
Let's talk about some other degenerates.
Yeah, it'll be back though, guaranteed. So what else is in the news, Aria, that we need to know about?
Well, I had no idea when I brought this in that we would end up spending most of the night talking about drag queens, but hey, that worked out pretty well. So this ex-priest in Louisiana has pled guilty after getting caught having a threesome on a church altar. Now, he was a priest at the time that he was caught, so it's not like
so
he
they
broke
defrocked him or something like that?
As I understand it.
I see.
So a Catholic priest who was caught having sex with two dominatrixes.
Yeah, I guess you kind of aren't supposed to have sex before you're married as a Catholic, right?
I think if you're a priest, you're not supposed to have sex at all.
Even if you're married.
I don't think you're allowed to get married.
I think some are all right with it these days. But on the altar, that's in the building, in your workplace.
Right.
That's definitely frowned upon.
On the altar. That's a step that you don't take that.
No, that was sacrilegious on purpose.
It's called desecration.
Definitely.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That was the aspect of it. I'm thinking. It was two dominatrixes and this Catholic priest on the altar of this Louisiana church. He has pled guilty to felony obscenity, according to local reports.
Wait, so they got the law involved? Or is it just the church?
Both.
He got arrested.
Yeah. Okay, well, what the hell's business is the law to get involved in some dude's personal
Well, it's not
activities?
his personal
Was there an
activities.
audience
Well,
present for this?
And were the dominatrix is Catholic?
Someone walking by saw this through one of the windows, and they reported it to the police.
Wow!
But this wasn't his private activity. The church, as Catholicism teaches, is not his property. That was not his altar, and it wasn't his building.
Yeah, it was his place of work.
Well, I don't know if I would even call it that, but
normally
it belonged to the diocese, to the Catholic church.
But if you have sex in the break room at your retail job or something like that, you shouldn't get brought up on criminal charges. You should just go to get fired at worst case,
correct,
right? Like,
correct.
okay, you're out of here, bro.
It is surprising to me that he was found that he pled guilty to felony obscenity. The others,
why is that a surprise?
Because the
That's
others
what everyone does.
make more sense.
So obscenity, as in public obscenity.
Felony obscenity. That's all it says. I don't know. I'm assuming public, but the other two.
And this is Louisiana. I mean, there's a lot of criminal
felony.
stuff.
Wait, say that again. This is a felony offense.
Felony obscenity.
I'll look it up here.
Holy crap!
Yeah. Travis Clark, 39, entered the plea as part of an agreement with prosecutors on Monday. He received a suspended 3-year sentence and will serve 3 years of supervised probation. He was also ordered to pay a $1,000 fine.
I'm surprised they didn't put him on the sex offender list for an obscenity charge. Felony obscenity. It sounds like a sex offender charge.
That's probably part of the plea deal.
So what about what about his dominatrixes? Did they also fall under the?
I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So Clark's defense attorney said the ex-priest had already paid $8,000 in restitution to the Archdiocese of New Orleans after the altar was declared desecrated and ordered to be burned and replaced.
Yep, I knew it was coming to that.
And that was how they got the dominatrixes. That's how they charged them with vandalism, felony vandalism, because they desecrated this religious object.
I hope they didn't burn this thing. I hope they sold it to a lower bidder.
It says they burned it. They ordered it to be burned and replaced. I mean,
That's dumb.
I imagine some dominatrixes out there probably would have been willing to buy it.
Exactly.
Clearly. Clark was caught in the act at St. Peter's and Paul Catholic Church, and it doesn't really care. When a passerby saw him through a window engaged with two high-heeled, corseted women, the trio appeared to be filming themselves. Sex toys and stage lights were recovered at the scene by police, along with recording devices. This is one of those things you think you got to be making it up.
This is a man in a particular position of authority. He probably, I'm sure that the altar was chosen specifically because of it was.
I can't imagine why else they would have chosen the altar.
Yeah. They could have just had fun at his house in the garage, but no, they chose the church. Probably the two girls or whoever can. Yeah.
Now, these are dominatrixes. Normally, as I understand it, we interviewed one once upon a time, many years ago on Free Talk Live. Normally you hire a dominatrix to be dominated, not to have sex with. Usually these women do not have sex as part of their...
To dominate, not to be dominated.
It doesn't necessarily say they had sex with him.
What are they saying exactly? Well, if you can say it on the radio.
All it says was that there were sex toys and stage lights and recording devices. We could speculate.
So he could have been making a porn video or something like that.
But that's it. All we know was that there were two dominatrixes there. It doesn't say. Nobody was charged with prostitution here.
Okay.
And they would have charged people with prostitution.
So he could have been just having them stomp on him or something like that, right? Crack a whip over him.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Something like that, and he got a video camera out. There may be video of this.
Now, when it comes to sex workers in videotape, I didn't know that was a normal thing.
What do you mean?
Because you're not a porn star, you're a sex worker. Do you actually want someone having access to your work and displaying it all over the internet the next day?
If you pay them enough, they will.
I don't know that a dominatrix is necessarily a sex worker. Sex adjacent, certainly, but not necessarily a sex worker in and of itself. I don't know.
But still, the cameras is what got me.
People hire dominatrixes for erotic reasons.
Yeah, certainly.
Primarily.
Yeah.
Right? It gets them off.
Yeah.
They like being told what to do. It's like the businessman, the guys that have all the power, they want to be disempowered. They want to have a woman with a whips and chains or whatever.
Presumably
tell them what
that
to
was
do.
what the priest wanted.
Yeah.
So the two women pled guilty to misdemeanor counts of institutional vandalism and were sentenced to probation.
Okay.
Clark was subsequently removed from the church, as you might expect.
Did he get a sentence too? I missed that. If you went over that.
3 years of probation.
Let me guess. Removed from that church and sent off to another church.
It doesn't say, but knowing how Catholicism does things, probably.
Just like all the little boy diddlers.
Yeah.
They just get moved around, shuffled around.
At least he's messing with grown women.
In Louisiana, the crime of obscenity is the intentional exposure of the genitals, and they get more descriptive, in any public place or place open to the public view, or in any prison or jail, with the intent of arousing sexual desire. More coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
My name is Angel Rach. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children, and I fought all the way to the Supreme Court for the right to use the medicine that saved my life. I've been permanently disabled for 10 years, with an inoperable brain tumor, wasting syndrome, and several other serious conditions. For 4 years, I was in a wheelchair, in so much pain I couldn't even hug my kids. The hardest part was looking in their eyes and seeing how much they were suffering because of my medical condition. The medicine that gave me my life back and gave my kids their mom back was cannabis, also known as medical marijuana. With medical marijuana, I can walk, maintain my weight, and I can be a mom. Without it, my doctors believe that I would die. To learn more about medical marijuana, contact Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or on the web at mpp.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join the show here. You can bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. We're just talking about a man and two dominatrixes who were sentenced to probation, apparently, in Louisiana for having sex on the altar of a Catholic church. The man happened to be one of the priests in that particular Catholic church. The crime, so-called, at least for the man, was obscenity, which we were just getting into, apparently felony-level obscenity. Now, the actual statutes on Louisiana's revised statutes don't specify penalties. It just talks about the crime of obscenity, so presumably they can charge it however they want to. If they want to charge it as a misdemeanor, they can. If they want to charge it as a felony, they can, apparently. It's a crazy story. We can continue with that. Of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome. The number is 603-283-6160. You can also join us online anytime you want. Just head over to freetalklive.com. We do have, by the way, a social media platform. You can go to social.freetalklive.com. And there is where you can interact with other Free Talk Live listeners, as well as some of the hosts. And it's also a Mastodon system, so it's federated out there with the other Mastodons. Most of them. Some of them have disconnected from us because they don't like us, but that's fine. That's their freedom.
We don't like them.
Yep, that's their freedom. So check it out over at social.freetalklive.com. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts, though. You can bring up anything you want. Crichton is in Kentucky. Go ahead, Crichton.
Yes, I wanted to call in and comment about tonight. Not necessarily the actual topics tonight, but about the conflict that arose between the hosts tonight.
Before you do that, was that you that signed up for the Mastodon just recently? I thought I saw a Crichton jump in there. Okay, right on. Yes. Welcome aboard.
And this tonight has been an example of the Overton window. The Overton window is the idea that there is a set of culturally acceptable topics that are possible in the public venue. And that relates back to libertarians have a disagreement about this in general, that whether or not the dominant culture deserves to be preserved. And on this, I'm leaning toward Conan on this, that there are certain areas of culture that do deserve respect. I mean, they pre-exist the concept, and if they don't contradict libertarian values, then they should be left to be, and we shouldn't go out of our way to undermine that cultural aspect.
Okay, but how is a drag show going out of anybody's way to try to undermine anything? It's just people having, an entertaining time in a private venue.
Well, the dominant culture for most of the places that we live is a Judeo-Christian history. Now, whether or not you agree with it or not is beside the point.
I don't think it's at all beside the point.
No, it is beside the point because that is it it's not saying that you have to be religious or you have to agree with Christianity to respect the cultural norms that comes with. So dragging the Overton window to be more permissive is somewhat offensive to the cultural background.
Good. Thank God. If I want to offend anything in my life, it better be you damn Christians.
Well,
you're offended by it. Not you, but Christians in general. They spent thousands of years killing people like me. Screw them. Let them be offended. Let them cry all they want about how offended they are. No one's putting them to death.
I mean, we were just talking last night about Qatar, where even simply having a public display of affection is prohibited. You will be put to death, for instance, or at least put in prison for 7 years if you're a gay person having sex with another gay person, and there's probably some sort of slapping that they'll do to you publicly or whatever if they actually catch you holding hands with a woman. I mean, so I get what you're saying about it. When you're in Rome, you have to do as the Romans to some extent, because otherwise they'll draw and quarter you, or just destroy your life in some way. But
I don't mean because of the consequences of the society. I'm saying that Arya talks about things that we should have resisted the entire time. That should just as bad as slavery on all the things that we did resist. I'm saying that in what context is a 10-year-old making a voluntary choice to attend a drag show? In what world is that the choice of the 10-year-old?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
in our world,
if I were 10 years old, I could have said I did or didn't want to go to do a thing.
I'm pretty sure every 10-year-old out there that I've ever met is never going to willingly go to one of these things unless they're dragged there by their parents.
Well, that's because you weren't raised in a family where this is sort of like a normal thing.
And that's what I mean. There's the cultural difference, because the same thing can be said about a 10-year-old being taken to church, but they still go. And that's within the Overton window, in the environment and the culture that we live in. We should pick our battles.
Is it though these days? I mean, a lot of people don't go to church, especially amongst the younger.
Yeah, I know they're all going to drag shows.
That's not true
yes,
either.
Obviously, it's becoming that.
Maybe there should be a church drag show. I bet you that exists. There's probably somebody out there.
We just talked about some dude having sex on the altar with two dominatrixes. Oh yeah, it's happening. Oh, and they're filming it, by the way.
Maybe. Crichton,
so that we're doing drag, though.
Are you just saying that you don't think
the dominatrixes might have been drag? We don't know.
It didn't look that way from the pictures
I saw.
You saw pictures.
Oh, good stuff.
I just wanted to I just want to clarify what you're saying, though, Crichton. Are you saying that drag shows shouldn't happen?
No, I'm saying that we shouldn't get this involved in them and supporting them publicly. It's a cultural fight that we don't need to be in.
Who's we?
Libertarians.
Why shouldn't I support people having the right to do voluntary things?
Because as soon as you said that, Conan's point of view points out that not all of them are voluntary. The children cannot consent to this. It's not everyone being voluntary.
Children are told to do all kinds of things they don't want to do, right? Like eat their vegetables.
And I made that point. The exact same thing is true if you take a child to church. But within the Overton window, the cultural environment we live in, taking a child to church is within that Overton window.
So is taking them to a drag show.
What if it's not, though?
It's not.
What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if taking children to church now is outside of that window and it's controversial and people think that it's brainwashing?
That's what I just said. 20 years ago, taking kids to church was all right, and it's not anymore.
Well,
now it's all right to take kids to drag shows, or it's becoming all right.
It's never going to be all right because not everybody's ever going to agree with this. I think there's probably as many people that think that drag shows are child abuse as there are people who think that church is child abuse.
Agreed.
Probably, but it's not who thinks what. It's about the cultural environment.
But this is about who thinks what. This is your call is about what you think. And you think that the cultural window or the Overton window is okay with taking kids to church against their will, but it's not okay with going to drag shows. And obviously, there's people that have different windows.
Right?
I
agree with Crichton. I believe it's overwhelmingly not okay to take kids to drag shows.
What the hell do I care what the Overton window says? We haven't even established that. What do I care?
That's not my point at all.
Well, they should be, because you're
is-
the one arguing for it and saying that this is
My
what we
point
have to use as our metric for what is and isn't okay. Why the hell should I care? Who gave society, the masses out there, the right to say what is and isn't okay?
Great point.
My point is
God?
that this
Did
kind of
God
thing
give you that
splits
right?
Libertarian.
Did government?
My point is that this kind of topic splits libertarians. Your show tonight proves it. Is that
Good.
Libertarians have different opinions on this topic.
I want to
and
know
because it makes
which
us less
libertarians want to use force against their neighbor for going to a drag show, because those people are not libertarians. And this issue...
Who said anything about using force?
You
against
didn't, but there are people that
No,
do.
I did not mention using force.
I said you
I'm
didn't
saying
say that.
respect.
Crichton, I said you didn't say that. You did not advocate using force.
Earlier in the show, we
However,
were discussing an individual who was all about using the state
Yes.
to take these parents away from their kids.
Yeah, and he's not alone. Every time this issue comes up online, there's always some purported libertarian who starts talking about using the government to stop people from going to these things, and to stop parents from taking their kids to these things. And I think that those people, I want to know who they are. I do not want those people to be my neighbors. I want people like Top Lobster, if he really believes that, isn't just trolling, isn't just trying to get a reaction. I want him to stay in Florida. I don't want him to come to New Hampshire. And I want to know people like that, they should out themselves. And that's why I like talking about things like this. Yeah. Let's separate the libertarians, because the fact is, if we can't get along, we shouldn't try to.
Well said.
Crichton, any other thoughts?
We
disagree.
We libertarians sure hate each other, don't we?
Not at all.
I like the real ones. Thank you, Crichton. I do appreciate your
I
comment.
mean, as Crichton pointed out,
Thank you.
it pointed out that we disagree on this subject. Yeah, so what? We don't have to agree on it.
We
Neither
can
one of us is trying to
disagree.
force the
I was
other.
being silly, but we do agree on 95%,
That's the
and then
thing.
we spend all our moments
But the thing is,
fighting each other on that 5%.
Even though we don't agree about the morality or whatever, none of us want to use violence against the other person for having a different way of wanting to raise kids or whatever. And the people that do want to use violence, those people are not libertarians. Okay? You're just a conservative or you're a liberal. And you authoritarian types, just get out of New Hampshire. You don't belong here. We'll see you tomorrow night online. In the meantime, freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response